Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Welcome to the Queen Anne's County Commissioners meeting. This is a public meeting that is being aired live on our local television station, QACTV 7. This meeting is also being streamed live over the internet at www.qac.org/live. These media broadcasts provide county citizens an opportunity to watch and review our scheduled public sessions. We acknowledge your participation, and by attending, you acknowledge that this session is both recorded and aired. The scheduled agenda is available on the information table just outside of the meeting room. Press and public comment will be taken and is limited to 3 minutes each. If you care to speak, you must sign the sheet on the information table outside. Comments longer than 3 minutes can be submitted in writing for the Commissioner's review. During the meeting, we would ask that you turn your electronic devices off and hold personal conversations outside of the meeting room. We will now stand and be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Commission President Jim Moran.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If we can remain standing for a moment of silence for our great nation, that just because somebody doesn't agree with you doesn't make them your enemy. Thank you.
Okay, we held a brief closed session for administration, boards, and commissions to discuss the appointment of the chairman and vice chairman of the Liquor Board, otherwise known as the Board of License Commissioners. Can I get a motion on that?
I'll make the motion.
Speak.
Oh, as far as the changes?
Yes.
Oh, I apologize.
I got it. I move to appoint Joyce Jones as president of the Liquor Board and Tom Beery as vice president.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved.
Okay, thank
We're
you.
talking about this.
All right, the agenda for today's meeting, August 27th, 2019, along with the regular minutes from your August 13th Commissioners meeting, were distributed electronically for your review. Are there any additions or corrections? Okay, hearing none, can we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
There we go.
Okay. All right, that brings us to our first press and public comment session. Thank you for taking the time to express your views to the County Commissioners during this public comment period. Comments are limited to 3 minutes in length. Comments longer than 3 minutes should be submitted in writing. When you come forward, please speak clearly at the standing microphone. State your name, address, and topic of interest. Keeping with the dignity of the office, we ask that all views be expressed in a respectful and civil manner. The Commission respects your desire and right to convey your message freely. We ask as a courtesy to the board and our citizens that you respect the Commissioner's request and refrain from naming citizens and name-calling when offering any critique. And we have a clock up here for your 3-minute allotment.
The first person that signed up is Mr. Don Gross.
Good evening, Commissioners. Again, I appreciate your moment of silence, by the way, especially tonight, because we do not agree, and I'm sure that there are many differences of opinion here. We're still friends, we're not enemies. So I'm just remembering that. With your permission, can I step over to the map?
Does he need to take the mic? Does he need the mic with him?
I can speak up, I think you can hear me.
Yeah, take the mic, please.
It's so that it gets on TV.
Just for the people at home.
Absolutely. Immortality. That's right.
We on? Okay. I watched the video recording of the last Commissioners meeting at which Mr. Shane Moore presented to the Commissioners his opinions, and I'm saying his opinions because they were factually inaccurate. And I just want to point out, to start with, one of Mr. Moore's contentions was that only residents who live in Section D, the lower section of the area in question, were interested in raising the speed limit. In the packets of information that all of you have, I've presented to you several times on this subject, in the packet that you've got are petitions signed and with addresses of all the people who were in favor of the motion to increase the speed limit to 45. After viewing Mr. Moore's presentation, I looked at the petitions and did a rough count, counted again, and then counted a third time. 72% of the people who signed the petition in favor of increasing the speed limit live outside that red area. So it's not just the Bennett Point, excuse me, it's not just the Bennett Point residents that are looking at this. Secondly, we're all of us in this room are very much in favor of the safety considerations. The school bus issue was a big point of contention, or a big point of Mr. Moore's presentation. I drive up and down Bennett Point Road every day, sometimes 2, 3, 4, 6, 8 times a day. I follow the wagon train of school buses during the school year up Bennett Point Road at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I stop at every stop along the way. The contention was that some drivers are illegally passing school buses. That may be, I've never seen it, but that is not a factor of the speed limit or the number of school bus stops. It's a factor of law enforcement, and it should be strictly enforced. Whether or not there's a speed limit increase has nothing to do with the school bus traffic, in my opinion. If we follow the law, and we all should do that, looking out for the kids, you stop. If you don't, let law enforcement take care of it. The other 23 hours a day, the speed limit is totally unreasonable at 35, in my opinion. So anyway, my 3 minutes are up.
Don, I have just a quick question. Normally don't do this. How many people were signed on your petition? How many signatures?
125 or so, according to, I think, your observation of the last meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are all those speed limits that we have up there now correct?
In the recording from the last meeting, the red zone at the bottom was said to be 30 by Mr. Moore. It's not, it's 35.
Okay.
And we're not looking for any change there. We're not looking for a change in the upper area around the Bennett Point store. It's only that section C in the middle.
The C in the middle. But the B is, what speed limit is the B at?
35.
So the B is at 35.
So it's 35
Right.
all the way down to the end of Bennett Point Road.
And those 125 signatures, when were those 125 signatures collected?
They were collected, I've got them right here. It's not dated. Let's see.
Best guess.
Best guess, 2 years ago.
Okay.
When this whole effort began. I mean, I've been pursuing this for a long time, and the petitions were circulated, doors were knocked on by my family and myself. We went door to door. There was only one household in the entire area outside Bennett Point. Now, we're not talking about inside Bennett Point community. Outside Bennett Point community, there was one dissenting vote, and only one.
How was that? Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks for hearing me. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, the next one who signed up is Kathy Gibbs.
Hi, my husband Nick and I live at 2519 Bennett Point Road. We are in the proposed speed limit increase area. We are both vehemently opposed to this. We've been at our home for, as I said, over 23 years. We lived there when the speed limit was 50 miles per hour, and then subsequently reduced to 35. We witnessed from our front porch, thanks to my husband's cigar smoking, we had witnessed 3 accidents. We woke up one morning at 4 o'clock in the morning to see a car full of teenagers upside down on the front of Bill and Emily Russell's front lawn. We witnessed a young lady coming flying down the street, hit a deer, totaled her car. I just don't see the reasoning behind that. I, too, am up and down Bennett Point Road multiple times per day, as is my husband. I also speak on behalf of some neighbors who are unable to be here tonight. I appreciate your time. I just think it's a really bad idea. And to get to the end of the street a few minutes sooner, which is really the only thing I can think of, I don't think it's worth it. So, thank you.
Thank you. Michelle O'Brien.
My name is Michelle O'Brien. I've lived on Bennett Point Road in the C-section for 22 years. My first question is, are all of the commissioners familiar with this stretch of road? I know some of you definitely are, but are all of you familiar with what this road looks like? Yes? Yes. Okay, great. So one thing that you know, in the green section, the Zone C, it's the most concentrated area of residences on the entire road. There are probably 40 houses. The houses sit less than 75 to 80 feet off the road. The majority of houses are on the right-hand side. Our mailboxes are across the street. The buses do not pick up with the door facing the driveway, so the kids cross in front of the bus to board the bus. There are 30-plus houses that are within either a full passing zone or a partial passing zone. Again, if you consider a speed limit increase, what it takes for a car to pass another car is additional speed. So this is the third go-around of this topic. I sat in on the 2008 hearing about this when it went from 50 to 35. Again, it was brought up in 2015 but not approved. I've been in contact with Mr. Moore on both instances of this. I'm disappointed that none of us were notified that now knowing a 2-year-old petition was recirculated. I'd like to thank my neighbors that showed up to support this as well. You all want to hold up your hand and say, yay, we're very against this. There's one reason that cars should be speeding on this road, and that's if they're professional emergency vehicles responding to a call. You're lucky to live on a beautiful peninsula. Enjoy it. Don't risk all of our lives to get to your house 5 minutes faster. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dan, is it Jarzinski?
Yes, sir. Good evening again. Short story is Bennett Point needs to be 40 miles an hour. It's designed so. The state survey said it should be 40. Accidents are going to happen. People are going to speed. School buses. We all know that laws are there. I just think that a reasonable approach to this whole thing is a 40-mile-an-hour speed limit on Bennett Point Road. The lady that said there are 13 houses on the 2 Greenwood Creek entrances that have their mailboxes on the other side of the road. I petitioned the postmaster in Queenstown to move the mailboxes in front of their houses so that people don't have to cross the road to get their mail. I was told it couldn't be done, but I was also told that the postmaster was the person that tells them where to put the mailboxes. So it's one of those, do we do and do we don't do. But again, the speed limit on the road should be 40 miles an hour. Thank you.
Is Margaret Schwartz? Am I pronouncing that correctly? You're good?
Pete, you came all the way down here. You had to step up. Make yourself famous.
There you go.
You can pull it down. There you go.
No, the only thing I think most everybody may or may not be aware of is that we have an area between the edge of the road and where, everybody's property begins with their hedges and or trees or whatever, and trying to cut that in any time of the day with traffic coming down the road at more than 35 miles an hour is really a hazard. And I don't know whether everybody else cuts their own grass. Some of us do, some of us don't. But to me, to increase the speed limit beyond 35 is really asking for problems, especially, as I pointed out, in the spring, summer, and fall, when people are trying to cut their lawns, grass, whatever you want to call it. So from that standpoint, I think it's a practical thing to keep the speed limit at 35 and not raise it to the point where someone can get killed riding their lawnmower.
Thank you. That's all we had signed up to speak, and we're going to close press and public comment because we're a little bit behind. Move on.
All right, Commissioners, we can move on to new business. If you want to turn to tab 3, item number 1 on page 1, we have the Bennett Point Road speed limit review update. So, as you heard during our press and public comment section, this has been continuation and a re-review of the posted speed limit on a portion of Bennett Point Road, and Chief Roads Engineer Shane Moore is here if he wants to come up for part of this. But this has been ongoing since 2004 when the speed limit was changed in that section from 50 to 35, the area outlined as item C. And there is a request to adjust that again currently before us.
I'll tell you, I'll make a motion so we can get to the question portion of this issue. I'm not going to make the motion that's written here. I'm going to modify my own. And because of the public outcry that we have received in emails from the folks over the last 2 weeks when this was first brought up, my motion is that we keep the speed to stay at what's posted currently at 35.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Shane, what's that distance in that section for C? Do you know how many miles that is, roughly?
I think it's approximately 2 miles.
2 miles, so... Maybe 3. Okay, so 3 miles, so 3 miles?
Yes.
And is it... let me ask a question first. How much time does that save? 5 miles. 5 miles an hour for 3 miles.
Oh, I don't have the calculator right in front of me, but it's
all right,
not
well,
very
then we're going
long.
to go with the audiences. Nick, how much is it? 2 minutes. 2 minutes, okay. All right.
So she will come to store to the end, you can save 2 minutes at 50 instead of 35.
Okay. And this is asking for 40, not 50, so, right, okay. Any other discussions? Any questions for Mr. Moore?
Well, I'll say I went down, drove the road again since I knew this was coming up, and I'll make a confession. In high school, I put my car in a ditch on Bennett Point back when the speed limit was 50. So, you also have to take in consideration when you have new drivers out on that road, they might not be as experienced as some of the people who are talking, and a higher speed limit can be prone to a little bit more difficulty, and it's not fun to have to pull your car out of a ditch in the middle of the night.
So there's no way that I'm saying that you should travel anywhere from 5 to 6 miles an hour over a posted speed limit. I'm not encouraging that you do that. But let's face it, if the posted speed limit's 35 and you're doing 40, 41 miles an hour, in my opinion, for that particular road and not even just that stretch in section Z, but for the whole thing, to do 46 mile an hour on that road, which is only 6 miles over the posted speed limit, to me is a safe speed, and it's not as daunting as if you were to travel slower.
That would be 41, it's posted 35.
That's what I mean, 41.
But, and I mean, based on the statistics we have here, as of February of last year, there is 85% of the people are doing 50 right now.
Correct.
Posted at 35. So 5 is not an issue. They're 15 over at this point. So raising it is just going to increase that number, you would think. So.
I'm always interested in what staff has to say. Mr. Moore, sir.
Well,
He's saying, don't
Now,
do
hang
that.
on here. If this road, given what it is, with no public outcry whatsoever, what would your normal take of what the speed limit should be?
if there were no residents in section C, it would be 50 miles an hour.
Right, but there are.
The original analysis done by Mr. Jack Tucker was a retired state highway maintenance engineer. When he did the analysis, the initial one in 2004, he based the 35 mile an hour posting in that section based on the number of residents. There's no magic table or number of residents, number of intersections in a certain mile to require the speed limit to be lowered. It's a judgment call.
Yeah.
He based his analysis on what he had done at State Highway. So you're comparing the 85th percentile, which is 50 miles an hour, to a more reasonable speed based on the number of residents. In 2004, we had several accidents. We also had the Board of Ed with a lot of concerns because of the school bus stops. So based on that and Mr. Tucker's experience, we went with 35. As the 85th percentile has shown since then in 2006 and again in 2018, people are driving at 50. The average speed is 46, 45 miles an hour. And that is happening, and the data we have from the Sheriff's Office doesn't indicate any recent accidents from 2016 to 2019 in that area. But you still have the number of school bus stops. You still have the issue with the mailboxes on the other side of the street, which I have tried myself, and the post office will not change. So there is that. And to speak to Mr. Gross, I'm sorry, I had not seen that petition before I got it from Linda a few weeks ago. And I did go through the addresses, not 100% thoroughly, but I kind of went through quickly. Yes, a lot of them are not in Section D, but some of them are not even in Queen Anne's County. They're all over. I think there are people that do drive down there, but they don't live there. My comment was for the people that live in C. I don't get asked from people. There are a handful, 5 or 6 in this petition that live in Section C that want the speed limit raised per the petition. So that's the issues I've had to deal with. The people that live in C, the majority that have spoken to me, emailed or called, do not want it raised. The people that live in D, the vast majority, do want the section in C raised. And it's a judgment call. I mean, I would not post it at 50, no.
Would you post it at 35 or 40? Do you have an opinion or voice?
Based on the data from the 85th percentile and the stuff and the information from the Sheriff's Office, 40 miles an hour would be a reasonable posting. Also from the Board of Ed, they indicated that their bus drivers felt 40 was acceptable as well. But that is, it's a judgment call. There's no engineering specific background for that posting.
I would point out that with a lot of driveways, when people are pulling out, you have to have a lot more space the faster people are coming at you. So,
right. And as indicated in the memo, when State Highway did their analysis in 2006 to check our 2004 analysis, they indicated that yes, you could raise the speed limit, but if you do, additional signage is required for the school buses.
Thanks.
So that's something, if it is raised to 40, we would need to look at that.
Thank you, sir.
And for the public, there are some people who came to speak today, but we received a lot of emails that are in the record from members of the public who were concerned. And I would think of the emails, I think probably 95, 99% were opposed to raising the speed limit.
I think that's fair to say.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just curious if the folks that were in favor of the speed increase by signing that 2 years ago, where are they today? And if they want it raised, why aren't they taking the time to send us emails or appear here and make a comment in the time periods that we have allowed in the past 2 commissioner meetings regarding this subject matter? So,
and I also believe that
I think that people who sign the petition feel that their voice is stated in the petition that they signed.
I will say that as Americans go, if a speed limit is 50, everybody does 59. So if a speed limit is 30, everybody does 39 or 40. So to me, I agree. I think that I'd rather err on the side of caution if it's only saving somebody 2 minutes. I'm sorry for that, but with that being said, any other discussion? No. We're voting to keep the speed limit on Bennett Point Road as existing. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioners. Item number 2 on page 5 is a series of resolutions to place property liens on 5 properties for nuisance violations.
I move to approve resolutions 19-28, 19-29, 19-30, 19-31, and 19-32 to place a lien on each of the properties listed in the County Zoning Administrator's Memorandum dated August 27, 2019 for nuisance violations.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Just for the folks that are watching, we do respond, and we have over the years responded to citizens' complaints about derelict properties that aren't being taken care of and the eyesore that they can cause a community. So that's what this is about.
Thank you very much. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved.
Okay, thank you, Commissioners. On Page 44, item number 3 is an equitable sharing agreement and certification for the Queen Anne's County Sheriff Office, and it's basically an annual report filed with the Department of Justice certifying if the sheriff received any confiscated federal funds, and if so, how they were expensed. And this particular year, fiscal 2019, there were no funds confiscated, so this is just a formality at this point.
I move to sign the equitable sharing agreement and certification for the Queen Anne County Sheriff's Office.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved.
All right, thank you, Commissioners. On page 50, item 4 is another equitable sharing agreement. This is for the Queen Anne's County Drug Task Force. Again, no federal funds were confiscated. They do have a continuing fund balance of $717.09, which is reported therein.
I'll make the motion that Commissioner Jim Moran sign the equitable sharing agreement certification for Queen Anne's County Drug Task Force.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Okay. Item 5 on page 56 is a CAD consultant and project manager bid tabulation for the Department of Emergency Services. And Director Haas is here with his team. This is basically a project consisting of 3 phases that would include a consultant to help them with their CAD system design. So again, any questions on that? Scott's here to answer those. Can I get a motion on that?
I move to authorize the Director of the Department of Emergency Services to execute a contract with Technology Security Support Implementation to provide consulting and project management in regards to the selection of a public safety computer-aided dispatch and records management system for $89,050 to complete phases 1 through 3 of the project.
Second.
And we have a second. Any discussion?
Director Haas, this is half the project, correct?
It is, I'd say, 2/3 of the project. So this is year 1, so we're in year 1 of the project. Year 2 is implementation and actually putting the system into the emergency operations. So the basic recommendation is the low bid that is capable of doing all phases of the project.
Do you have any idea why that one bid was $89,000 and all the others were $170,000?
I could not tell you, and they were unable to do the entire project either, so.
Really? Okay. Any other discussion? All right. Seeing none, the motion is to authorize the Director of Department of Emergency Services to execute a contract with Technology Security Support Implementation to provide consulting and project management in regards to the selection of a public safety computer-aided dispatch and records management system for $89,050 to complete phases 1 through 3 of this project. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, Commissioners. Item 6 on page 60 is the Resiliency Planning and Financing for Maryland Counties, the Queen Anne's County Work Group. This is a continued item from last meeting. It's a list of participants for that effort, and Principal Planner Amy Moordock is here if you have any questions on that.
I move to approve the list of suggested work group participants and send appointment letters to each member and to approve the work group charge and project timeline.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I just have one question. How many letters did you send out? How many folks did you request to serve on this panel?
There are requested, let's see, I think 9 people, including me. And the letters haven't gone out. The letters are pending your approval.
Okay. So, but I mean, in other words, you guys decided who you wanted to have on this panel. And it looks like we have 6 county employees and 3 private citizens.
Correct.
Okay. My question is, how did we come up with those 3 private citizens? It makes sense to see where we have some of these county employees because of the knowledge and experience they bring on the subject matter. And not to say that the folks that have been selected from the private sector don't either. Just curious, who else received letters to be asked to be on this?
Well, no one has received a letter yet, so that we're waiting. Okay. But the private citizens who were selected are citizens who are known to have some involvement with environmental planning initiatives or resiliency planning initiatives.
And this is basically a pilot program? Is this something new for the state? Because I think we're in it with Anne Arundel County, Charles County, and is it the city of Baltimore or Baltimore County?
Baltimore County.
Baltimore County. And these are basically stormwater management projects and that have been identified, and this group is going to pretty much itemize which ones are first, or how's that?
Well, Queen Anne's County is a bit ahead of the curve. So, yes, this is a pilot program that is initiated by the University of Maryland. And the impetus to form these work groups and then bring them all together is to look at what types of resiliency strategies are the most cost effective. A lot of jurisdictions have not already studied sea level rise and have done vulnerability assessments. Queen Anne's County has done that. We have a plan in place, and that plan has been, a lot of those initiatives have already been folded into the hazard mitigation plan, which has just been updated. So the work group is going to look at initiatives that have already been identified by county staff and have been populated into these plans. So I think some of the other work groups aren't as far along in the process as Queen Anne's is. So our work group's charge will really be to prioritize those strategies that have already been identified. And then the second phase of this plan development, after every of those jurisdictions that you listed have developed their strategies and prioritized their strategies, we come together for the second phase, and this is where the financing analysis comes into play. And I was asked last time about the cost to Queen Anne's, and I've corroborated this with Joanne Throw, who is spearheading this effort for the University of Maryland. The financial analysis is really to look at what is the most cost beneficial projects and the best financing mechanism. And Mr. Seaman has agreed to help us with that once we get to that analysis level. But this first phase is really just to look at what those best practices are. Some of them will be stormwater related, some of them will be floodplain related initiatives.
So how are these going to dovetail into the MS4 permitting process that we're in the midst of suing to be taken out of, I guess, with other counties? I mean, is this kind of an end around to try and figure out what projects they can still get in, even if this suit was to fall apart? Or, I mean, exactly, I don't get, I mean, on this hand, we're doing this big MS4 permitting thing, and now on this hand, we're going to do more stuff with stormwater management. It's kind of like we're working from two different ends.
Well, stormwater management is a component of these resiliency planning efforts, so I'm not sure that it is meant to supplement or...
But wouldn't it be credited towards what the state is saying we're responsible for? Or would this be an addition to?
Yes, some of the projects could be identified for MS4 improvements, but not necessarily, they would.
I know not all of them, but I'm
Yeah,
saying, so
yeah.
it will mitigate some of our responsibility
It certainly could.
by some of these.
It certainly
And I think
could.
those efforts, which we know are a regulatory priority, would get pushed to the top of the list for financing efforts.
Well, we'd hope so. Anyway.
We'd hope so.
All right. So we have a motion to approve the list of suggested work group participants and send appointment letters to each member and to approve the work group charge and project timeline. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you, Amy. Okay, item 7 on page 64 is Budget Amendment CC5. It's a Housing and Community Services Homeless Services Grant to reflect an increase in grant proceeds for Housing and Community Service Homeless Services grants for fiscal 2020.
I move to approve Budget Amendment CC5.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Okay, and our final item is desk item number 8 is a local business traffic survey, and this is an effort to gather business owner information about how traffic impacts their businesses, particularly on the Route 50 corridor on Kent Island. We are proposing to put this out on SurveyMonkey with our database through Jean Faby and her office, and help with the Chamber of Commerce. So this is in here for your review and consideration. So we can get that in, get that information back in time for the tour.
Move to distribute the attached local business traffic conditions, call for action questionnaire to local business owners along the US 50, Maryland 18 corridor.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. There we go.
Okay, that's all our action items. So we're a little behind schedule.
Well, we're going to take a 2-minute break.
2-minute break, okay. 2-minute break. You want to go?
He's here.
wonder about that. I hope so.
All right, Commissioners, we have our presentation section of the meeting, and that would be
Yes, I did.
tab 7. And next we have from MDTA, Executive Director Jim Ports to give a presentation on the Chesapeake Bay Bridge construction and the work they're doing on lane number 1 coming up. So Jim, you want to come up with your team? And
It's actually going to be myself and Will Pines, for the record.
And Will's job is?
Will is the acting chief engineer for MDTA.
Very good.
And so, from a technical standpoint, he's your man.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay. All right. You want to?
So,
I'll try to be your man.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you. Thank you for coming down a few weeks ago, Steve and Todd and Jim, and meeting with us so that we could give you a better understanding of this project and the process that we're going to go through. I think it's helpful that we have a good dialogue and we're transparent in these things. And so we're happy you guys came down. What we're going to do today is I'm going to let Will go through the presentation with the westbound, because he's basically running this program, and he's probably the best expert here to talk about it. Okay?
Will, you want us to just hold questions till you get done and let you go?
It's up to you.
Sure, yeah, I'm comfortable with however you guys want to operate here, so, got it going there?
Yep.
Thank you. Again, Commissioners, thank you for having me. So I'm going to start off tonight. You had mentioned when we did meet that you wanted to get an update specifically on the westbound overlay project, and then kind of the details on some outlook for upcoming projects. So that's a little bit later in the presentation. And I don't know what you're able to see, but I guess...
Oh, we have a screen in front of us.
Okay, great. So to start off, the westbound overlay contract, Wagman Heavy Civil is our awarded contractor. They have a lot of experience working for MDTA on a number of projects, including they recently completed an overlay contract south of the Fort McHenry Tunnel, redoing our entire deck surface in that area. It's the largest overlay contract in the country. These guys have a lot of experience with that. We got the right company to work on the bridge. Their bid for the project was just under $27 million. And the notice to proceed is September 9th for that contract, and it'll be finished in August of 2021. So some of the background on westbound: the bridge was constructed in 1973, and relevant to the westbound overlay contract, in the early 2000s, we did a complete replacement of the existing top surface of the deck with a microsilica overlay. At that time, just after that overlay was installed, it began to have areas of debonding. A lot of studies were done into why exactly that occurred. And at that time, just after the project was completed, we did a lot of bond testing and identified that the center and the left lane were deficient, and so they were promptly replaced with a latex modified concrete overlay. So this is basically, if you can imagine, the deck is roughly 7 inches thick. Come through and you take off roughly the top 2 inches, and you put down a new concrete-like material on top of the surface to create a new riding surface and to create an impermeable barrier so that that deck extends its life. When the deck had that LMC replaced for the center and the left lane, at the time, based on the bond testing that was done, the right lane was determined to have a number of years of life left in it. And that leads us to today. So this contract is designed to simply replace the remaining deck area in that right lane that was not done in the mid-2000s when we did that earlier overlay contract. We also, in the late 2000s, did a deck replacement of the suspension and through truss spans. So those longer span sections are not in the contract. So getting into the purpose and need, why are we doing this project? The right lane today, the worst span of the bridge, what we call span B13A, has up to 75% of the deck area with delamination and patching. We're investing considerable money every year into maintaining that lane, and so it's time for replacement. The typical span is somewhere around 50% of the deck area. So if you've ridden in the right lane across the bridge lately, you've probably noticed a lot of patching. That's what we are addressing. We've done a lot of studies to investigate the conditional lane to validate the need for this and the timing of it. Done non-destructive testing, something that came out of past recommendations as we worked on our bridges to validate the extent of the damages within the deck. We also looked at a number of options when you want to replace the deck on the bridge. An overlay is a good first choice in terms of the speed at which the contract can be done and also the cost of a project. We looked at doing a similar contract to what we did in the suspension span and the through truss, where we completely replaced them, but the cost for that project is upwards of $200 million for the complete replacement. So this overlay is a much faster and more cost-effective approach. And again, it's only addressing the right lane because currently the center and the left lane are not in need. So if you did a deck replacement, you would then be dealing with the entire bridge width and replacing deck sections prematurely before it's actually needed. So what is the overall scope of the project? So that right lane that we're replacing, we're taking out approximately 19% of the overall deck area of the westbound Bay Bridge. It includes removing that original microsilica overlay that had the prior damages in the center and the left lane and replacing it with the latex modified concrete overlay, which again is a product that is tested and true on the Bay Bridge that was installed during the emergency replacement in the center and left lane, and also that we just used on our Fort McHenry tunnel facility. The project does require a full barrier replacement in order to do barrier down that lane to do the replacement because of the way the curing operation, the removal of the deck, and all the operation cannot be completed in a single closure. We will also be doing full bridge closures at night so that deliveries to that closed lane can occur. Beyond the lane 1 overlay or the right lane, we will also be doing localized deck repairs throughout the bridge, dealing with rail posts. You may have seen some of the painting on the railing is kind of showing its signs of age, so we're replacing posts and dealing with gantries on the bridge. You can kind of see in that slide 7 on the picture there some of the examples of how much patching there is in the deck. So because we have a lot of experience with doing these overlays on a number of bridges, we did bring a lot of lessons learned from the past project on how to successfully implement this. So based on the prior experience, we know that we do need to do a barrier separation. It cannot be done in a short-term closure. If you want a good product, we need to do it right, and that takes separating the lane from the work area. Additionally, it does require complex MOT in order maintenance of traffic in order to be able to do that work operation and help the contractor to be able to do that in an efficient manner and get in and get out so that we don't have to come back like we did in the past. In our prior contract, we included a dedicated ramp lane from Maryland 8 that would give priority to mitigate Kent Island impacts. That scenario is included in the contract to help deal with if congestion on the island backs up on the local roads. We have a means to help relieve that. Now, that is not our primary method of maintenance of traffic in the contract because there is a downside of that it takes a lane from US 50, there triggering some backup on the local roads. So that is there as a mechanism to work with the localities to help relieve traffic when necessary, but that's not the primary method that's designed in the contract. So one question that you may ask yourself is, how are you doing this traffic impactful project? Even though you did it a long time ago, traffic today isn't what it used to be. Well, in fact, the traffic during the prior overlay contract was in pre-recessional periods. So I have a graphic on the screen that shows the traffic at the time and today's traffic, and believe it or not, the volumes are actually very similar to those pre-recessional periods. So we believe that the experience in this contract will be very similar to the experience in the prior contract. Our current maintenance of traffic operations at the Bay Bridge is designed in a manner so that when we do lane closures, it limits the backups that are generated from the lane closure. Of course, during summer travels, there's backups that occur. We're not saying that. But the timing when we typically start our closures is designed to try to limit the backups that are caused from our closure. Because of the barrier closure in this project, we cannot have that same operational approach. So the design of this contract, the timing of when it was started, is set up to allow for an up to 3 mile backup. That's during normal routine conditions when that backup will occur. Certainly during bad weather and incidents, the backups will exceed 3 miles. But the baseline design for the contract is to allow for 3 mile backups. And the duration, the period in which the contract was set up, again, is similar to the prior contract experience that we had in the early days.
Well, is there any consideration to, during the main lane closure times, to possibly put signage to try and keep the tractor trailers on 95? The reason I say that, with the bypass, we've seen a huge uptick in tractor trailers, and obviously when you get into a traffic jam, tractor trailers can't stop and go as easily, and a lot of them are just avoiding it because of the toll. So maybe to help ease some of that 3 mile backup, maybe having the tractor trailers, trying to encourage them to stay on 95, much as we are with trying to encourage people to stay on 50 on Sundays, might help eliminate some of that backup in terms of, total volume of cars.
We can certainly take a look at that. We do have it in our plan already to coordinate with wide load vehicles with the design of the lanes with the barrier out. We know that there's an impact to vehicles getting across the bridge. So we're working out staging areas for them. So we know that part of this project does include coordinating for commercial vehicles, but we'll certainly look at what signing we could include on I-95 to help promote staying away from this area.
We could also work with Maryland Motor Truck Association to see what cooperation they can help with communication.
Okay.
I guess you just noted that, up to 3 mile backups is what your study or your contract is allowing for. I guess what my concern is the commuter traffic. No matter if it's summertime traffic, naturally is always heavier, but even in the fall and in the spring, that traffic, when it's only 2 lanes from wind closures or from rain closures or from anything, no contraflow, it takes about an hour to back up 7 miles. I mean, but you're confident you think it'll only be 3 miles? I'm
saying during normal routine conditions on a daily basis, it'll be 3 miles. It'll certainly be longer.
So what that is just an average out of rough days and good days?
Exactly. Okay. There are days where it will be longer than 3 miles.
Okay.
So the baseline is 3 miles, everybody should expect.
Well, clearly, if there's a crash.
Oh, well, you know that. Yeah,
okay.
We get that.
Right. And during bad weather,
Yeah.
or where we have to close the bridge for wind, it's going to be
But
worse.
to close, you only close close the entire bridge on high winds. I'm talking about contraflow. We're not going to have that, so we don't have to worry about losing that because it's already going to be gone.
That's right.
So, and that's, one of the concerns with all those commuters, morning and evenings. It's going to be extremely rough on everybody. And that's one of our major concerns right there. So,
free tolls eastbound.
Excuse me?
Free tolls eastbound.
That wouldn't pay
quicker, huh?
I'd just soon pay the $4 and get home without waiting in the toll. So, but we'll see. We'll see. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No problem.
Okay.
Thank you.
Free toll is a good idea. They don't have to stop, they just keep on going.
Shut down the booths and go right on through.
So we certainly understand and respect that this will be a challenge for the local roads and also US 50. We are planning a lot of outreach. We've already done some of that through Facebook, Twitter. It'll be a full outreach campaign, and I'll talk more about that in a little bit. To give you an idea of what the exact configuration will be, the lanes that will remain open will be reduced to 11-foot lanes. The current lanes, the left contraflow lane is 13 feet, and the center and right lane are 12 feet. So there will be a reduced configuration. As I mentioned, we'll coordinate with wide loads because of that.
Similar to what's on the Seven River Bridge now, correct? Since the additional lane?
And in the Harbor Tunnel and other areas, correct.
There will also be occasional short-term closures of the center lane to allow for drop-offs of materials and people to get into that closed lane, but those will be very intermittent drop-off, get out of the way, and reopen the lane. We will anticipate doing nighttime full bridge closures of the westbound bridge so that there will be nighttime contraflow on eastbound almost every single day of the week. And that's something that we're doing pretty much now for most of our contracts.
Between what hours?
That varies based on the time of year. Again, we are going to look at that 3 mile number and try to make sure that we try to clear it out as much as possible. So as you migrate further into the winter, the duration gets longer for that full bridge closure. So I don't have the specific numbers with me. We have actually, the last time we met with Jim, Steve, and Todd, we showed them, we have a complicated calendar that has the durations for every single day of the year.
Do you know what time you're looking at reopening it in the morning for some of the commuters, I imagine people are going to try to leave work earlier than they normally do now to try to avoid some of this traffic. So if you have two-way traffic on one bridge and it's 6 o'clock in the morning that they're opening up the other lane, that might impact people who are deciding that they're going to leave at 5:30 to cross over early.
So we have the durations in our contract in that calendar. They tend to be designed to be a little bit conservative based on our actual experiences. Richard, who's joined us here tonight, monitors this on a minute-by-minute basis. If he starts to see that queue developing, he'll kick us off and we'll have to start over the next day. So we monitor that real time to stop the closure and pick up when necessary.
So so your goal is to try to push that as long as you possibly can, and then when you start seeing backup, how long do you anticipate being able to clear and open up the westbound span from the time you decide we're done working?
Usually it takes us roughly 30 minutes to establish contraflow. I think one side is a little more difficult than another. Richard would know better than I do. Roughly 30 minutes, I think, to set up all of the cones and devices necessary to implement contraflow. So one of the biggest challenges with this contract, and much of all of our challenges with the Bay Bridge, is that many of you probably know typical construction is ideal to do in the summertime during the warmer temperatures, but that also is our busiest travel time. That issue exists in this contract as well. The latex modified concrete has very precise temperature limitations, otherwise you have to do heating. We would like to avoid heating of that, and so there's placement restrictions in the contract. So you can see in the graphic on the screen that typically the placement of that latex modified concrete really generally cannot occur in December through March. So based on the timing of when we set up this contract, the contractor really only has 5 months, and because of that limited duration on the placement, we actually need 2 separate seasons. We need a 2-year contract. So we'll have 2 cycles of this program. This calendar was created to give you a more detailed reflection of exactly what the impacts would be from the contract. As I noted before, the notice to proceed is planned for September 9th. I apologize if everybody needs the readers for this, but
Oh, fine, single me out.
sorry. And then on Tuesday, the 24th, the contractor that night on the 23rd will begin the removal of the line striping, and that will begin the implementation of the reduction of the lanes down to the 11-foot lanes. So in the morning of the 24th, excuse me, the line striping will impact the contraflow lane, and at that point we would lose daytime contraflow. The following week, as the line striping is done across the bridge through that week, when we get to the Monday on the 30th, that going over the weekend on the 29th into the 30th, the barrier placement will commence so that on the 30th, that barrier will be in place. And as you can see, in October, it will be in place through the whole month and through the winter. So we do anticipate...
When the barrier is being put in place, is there a whole bridge closure at that point in time, or are you able to just have one lane closed as you're putting the barrier?
The barrier will be put in place typically during night, during a full bridge closure.
But they're also doing, they said they're doing middle lane repairs too, so those will probably be during the full bridge closure.
Gotcha.
Right?
Correct. Yeah. And we'll do those kind of repairs. The contract, even though the barrier separation is through the winter time, we will use nighttime full bridge closures in the summer for operations like deck patching that's not that essential to the schedule of the project. So then this barrier separation will last through April and into possibly early May. We're going to see how the winter works out, how much the contractor accomplishes, and what the scenario looks like with weather and removing the line striping on the back end. We will give a more detailed update in April, May that's similar to this kind of graphic that shows the day-by-day progression, but we don't have that date information yet pinned down exactly for the April, May period with our contractor. We're going to take the lessons learned out of the line striping experience here, bring that forward into April, May, and make sure that we're back reopened in May before the main summer holidays and the heavier traffic period.
From an emergency operations standpoint, say we were to have, God forbid, a head-on accident on the eastbound during the closures, and you're saying it's about a half hour, whatever, to close, open up. There is we cannot go contraflow once the barriers are up. We could not do contraflow on the westbound span if there was a need for a full closure on the other bridge, correct?
The contraflow could be physically done, and we have bridges, there are bridges in the inventory within the state that have lanes that are as narrow as 11-foot lanes, one lane in each direction. It is a safety concern. It's not something that we want to do on a routine basis. That's going to be handled on an emergency case-by-case basis.
But there is a plan for that if that was to happen, if we were to have something similar to the tractor-trailer accident we had just a couple of months ago where basically the whole bridge was shut down.
We actually have a tabletop exercise planned for the 29th
2 days from now.
to run through scenarios much like that and make sure that not only internal to MDTA, but outside local emergency responders are involved in that meeting.
An invite?
Got a yes there, right?
Yes,
I couldn't see. All right. So some of the major benefits of the project, it does carry forward the lessons learned that we've had out of our past contracts. It's a realistic schedule. We understand the impacts of the project. We've done everything that we can to make this as difficult on our contractor as possible while also understanding the traffic impacts from it. It is keeping it the way that the project's designed with an early ramp up and an early start in late September, early October allows for greater assurance that by the summer in May we will be reopened. If we started later, the risk that we don't reopen for summer is greater. And we'll avoid other conflicts with other major projects that are out there ongoing. As you ride across, we've got painting ongoing, we've got projects in the suspension span. There's a lot of work happening on the Bay Bridge for a very long time. And this is the safest way for our contractor to work and we believe the public to get across the bridge for the magnitude of the work that we're doing. We've already done a lot of outreach. More is to come. We have found that the closer you need to have strategic outreach closer to the actual impacts, or people forget what you told them. And so it's important for us to give a little bit of messaging and just keep that coming, and that will grow. There will be messaging local to the bridge on the ground and also through all the social media and other outreach activities that we can possibly do.
Do you guys have a system for text alerts that people can get if they're using their bridge a lot, they can get an alert that there is a 3-mile backup so they know not even to come out?
So with our baseband system, there are ways to receive alerts. That's actually the slide on the screen now through chart. There's different ways of doing that. Baseband has an opportunity for you to get alerts that you can sign up for and receive regular alerts. And then our chart system for emergency responders and people who need a little bit more detailed information, they can sign up to receive certain alerts through chart. That's kind of an approval process with MDOT State Highway, but we can work with local officials to do that.
But you have a system too, don't you? You have a texting system?
Okay. No, we do.
Okay.
That's how we do weather alerts and all that. Right.
Right. So I assume, I'm familiar with Harford County. I don't live in Harford County, but I worked in Harford County. I know they had a text alert system that you could sign up for. And then that system pushes out all the information. We'd certainly be open to working with you to have our system talk to your system, and then you can push it out to your citizens also. So however you guys want to try and make that work, if we can technologically do it, we'll be more than happy to do it.
Well, I think maybe one of the easiest ways, someone on Richard's staff, anytime a lane is closed, traffic is reversed, there's an issue of any sort, so someone on our side, either DES or the sheriff's office, gets the notification, and then they can push it out to the people that, you know, they want to get that. But
However
it
you
is
want to do it.
crucial that, you know, anytime there's any change in availability for lanes that we, you know, we're notified so we can take the appropriate actions.
So we're obviously open to discussing however we can make this work. Maybe the 29th, the tabletop on the 29th, which is 2 days from now, will be a good time to discuss it. And that way you have the emergency operations folks there all together, and they're all really good at what they do.
They are.
So let's take their advice and try and push it out, okay?
We also did already have another separate meeting with the Board of Ed. And
Yeah, we did.
Through those discussions, they asked for a similar type of texting alert system. So Richard and our team is already working with implementing that they have somebody who they designated to receive those, and that they'll push those to the rest of their team.
Because, you know, a 3-mile backup westbound triggers everybody on 18, and when those, we have 6 schools, I think, inside of that 4 or 5 miles. And when those buses get loaded, if they can't drop those kids off in a timely manner, they've got to go and pick up the second half of the north part of the county. And, you know, that's the tabletop's going to bear that out, but that's a huge concern also. Yeah.
So one of the things that we understood that you asked for was just a list of some of the ongoing and recently completed projects, and providing that. I'll go through the ones that are nearing completion because that may be of interest. So if you've driven across the westbound bridge, you'll note the containment system we have up in the through truss span. We're doing a complete painting cycle replacement for that section of the bridge. We also have reoccurring contracts for structural repairs. MDTA has an annual inspection program. We do a hands-on inspection of the entire bridge every 2 years, and any priority repairs that are identified from that inspection program, we have reoccurring contracts that address those repairs.
When they do those, how long does that take, that inspection? Because it seems like they're always inspecting the bridge.
Our inspection program starts in September and ends in May, and it takes the entire time to do both bridges.
One question, sir. I, like a lot of people here, have had the opportunity to creep over the bridge at 2 miles an hour, which gives you ample opportunity to inspect the rails. And the ones along the bridge on the westbound side, the connectors in between them are almost rusted through. And are those going to be able to be done at night? Because that's going to involve work right out in one of those other lanes.
Yes, sir. So during the full bridge closure at night, we do rail replacements. We do not do that during the day at all, because you do actually have to disconnect the rail assembly. You may have noticed we've already done a number of the rails across the bridge for the metal railing. So those are included. A number of them are included in this contract for the ones that we've identified the need for that. The ongoing painting contract, that Phase 4 westbound painting, also includes repainting all of the rails that are not slated for replacement.
I think one of the things that was the most egregious annoyance during the last close down, it seemed like that center lane was blocked off for months and months. And during long blocks of time, nothing was going on in that. Is this going to be worked on the weekends and, you know, pretty steadily? Because I think one of the things that really irritates the public is when the whole thing is shut down and there's nothing going on in there.
Yeah, so one of the challenges with the Bay Bridge is, in order to work in that closed lane, we need to be able to make deliveries into the lane, and that involves getting concrete trucks in and out of the closed lane, which increases the impacts to traffic. So the majority of the work will occur at night. It will occur during those full bridge closures. The optics of that, kind of what you're talking about, folks being frustrated that they're not seeing as much work activity, you know, we understand that point, but we're really about doing what's safe for the public, safe for our contractor, and making sure we're doing what's a productive work environment. They really cannot do what's necessary for this project in that closed lane during the day without having the support from the adjacent lane.
I take your point, but it would be a good idea to put that info in the outreach.
Yep.
Because that.
I'm writing that down right now.
Yes, sir.
Well, the last time you did the lane
Good point.
resurfacing, and you put it down and then you had to take it back up again, they were working during the day. And you went from, I think there was maybe 20 or 30 people working, to almost about 150, it seemed like, in order to push to get it done.
I'm certainly not saying that they're not going to work during the day. They will work during the day, but the gangbuster giant volumes of crews will mostly be at night.
I think a lot of that was milling too, Jim. And
Yeah,
during the
that's-
day they were doing
either way,
milling.
you could, if you can work 24/7 on milling, then the night you bring in the equipment to
Then you
pave
get,
it.
don't you run up against, you've only got that 5-month time frame for putting it back, so you're open for summer too, so you gotta watch how much you mill. You can't mill
Putting it
ahead of
down,
what you can
putting it down is much easier than milling it.
Well, but you don't wanna have a big gap in there.
You're right.
So, another thing, we're talking about notice, getting the word out there. I use baseband 3 times a day. Shouldn't we be pushing that message out now, starting September 29th or September 20th?
23rd.
We're going to lose the contraflow in one lane, and get that notice out there now so people know and to change their travel habits, because baseband works extremely well. And right now, when you listen to it, there's no discussion of construction on the bridge at all. And I think putting that message out there for all those who check it on a regular basis before they leave home or before they leave work will let some of those commuters know that don't know, hey, beware, you don't want to come around this bridge in October.
That is definitely coming soon.
Okay, good.
So,
Keep in mind that, this is the first public meeting that we're having on this. So that's stage one. So word will get out from that, I'm sure. And 2, we have the tabletop 2 days from now. We'll glean some more information from that. So it might be a little premature to get the word out right now, but as Will said earlier, you want to kind of get it a little closer to when the actual event's going to occur, because a lot of people forget. We've
That's why you
seen
got
that on the
baseband.
other
It could
big
be on every
projects.
time. You could leave it on there for 6 months. And all I'm saying is you'll catch a lot of beach traffic, because once you close that lane, towards the end of September, all that beach traffic, maybe this will, stop them from coming. Maybe that'll help us on some of these backups. But I think, the sooner you put it out there and you leave it out there, they'll get the message. That's all.
Quick question for you. I digress. I wrote the date September 9th on here in the very beginning of your presentation.
September 9th is the notice to proceed. That's when the contractor will first mobilize for the project.
Okay.
The actual beginning when you will lose contraflow, if you go back here, let me go back.
23rd, isn't it?
23rd.
23rd?
That the evening of the 23rd will
Okay.
begin the line striping, so that in the morning of the 24th,
Okay.
the line striping reconfiguration will be in place.
And so
that's
this
when the guy
gets,
gets rich.
this is a great segue to why we don't start the communications too early. You might recall the original information we sent out was going to be the day after Labor Day, that we were going to have closures. We'll work very closely with the contractor to see how that can be modified in any way. Contractor basically said we didn't really need to start right then. We could wait, a little longer. And so that's what backed it up to the 23rd, and then the 29th is when the real impact would be.
Okay.
So you gained not quite a month, but a few weeks out of being able to work with the contractor. And so we did have to change that messaging a little bit.
Thank you.
Okay, so then upcoming projects in the pipeline, some projects, the Bay Bridge, both structures, we've done the complete life cycle cost analysis for the structures. The report associated with that is available on the MDTA website. I'm not going to go into nauseam on that, but some of the major projects that we have coming up that are anticipated within the next 5 to 10 years. One example is the eastbound Bay Bridge redecking project. This project will follow the westbound overlay contract that we're doing now, and we are currently working on the development of the advertisement for pre-construction services to help us to do the design for the replacement for that deck.
So let me put that one in English. So you're saying when we're done with the redecking on the westbound bridge, we're going to go automatically right the next year, jump right into redecking the eastbound bridge?
I'm not saying the next year, I'm saying within the next 5 to 10 years. We're doing regular inspections.
Okay, good.
And timing the,
It sounded like I heard
So-
right after you were done, you're going to get into it.
we are,
So let me back up.
Okay?
So when you came down and visited us,
Sir.
you said you wanted to know early on what other projects we'd have in the
Absolutely.
pipeline.
That's right. That's
Okay?
exactly right. Yeah.
So now what we're doing is sharing that information with
Absolutely.
you. We do want to let you know what's happening way early, so you can plan, and that's what we're here to do. Okay, so we listened to you, Todd, and Steve,
Okay?
and we are delivering.
Okay?
Okay? But we don't want to do that movie thing where we say, you want the truth, but you can't handle the truth. You know, we don't want to go there, right?
I would say to that look, we're going to replace this deck on the westbound bridge, but then we're not doing any more decks till there's a third bridge, so we can get to and from.
Well, that's not going to happen.
I don't know.
I appreciate that rosy outlook, but look, these bridges are in, they're old. They need a lot of maintenance. They're in some rough conditions. I'm talking about weather-wise and stuff, over water and everything. And so they need constant love. And I mean, we have to do this maintenance so that we don't have a bigger problem down the road or a larger project where we have to shut things down completely. Because if you didn't have that bridge, you'd be in real deep trouble. So we need to maintain these. And again, so, like I said, we listened and we knew this wasn't going to be real happy news for you, but we wanted to be honest with you. You asked us to be transparent. We're trying to be transparent.
Well, you already said the deck life cycle is 25 years, so I knew that was coming anyways.
and that depends on some of the materials and how the installation was done. And we are trying with our program when we plan for replacements to use the best materials. That's why when we're doing this overlay, we're using latex modified concrete. We believe that's the best available product in the market. So we want to try to get, when we do something, we want to do it right the first time so we can stay out for as long as we can. A couple other projects coming up in the not too distant future, a queue detection system. That's something you had an interest in, how we collect traffic. We are working on that. We always have miscellaneous structural repairs, as I mentioned, and something that we're reviewing and expect to expand our review on is Bay Bridge all electronic toll collection.
What is, just out of curiosity, is there a time frame for that potential rollout? For no more cash lanes, everything would be done electronically. Are you going to think about keeping any cash lanes at all, or? I know sometimes I cross, there's only 2,
Yeah, so the process that we have in place right now is, through this 3G contract, we're able to do more technological advances. So we're starting with the Hatem and the Key Bridge. They have our highest rate of Easy Pass users at this time. So it's the easiest transition. And so we're working on those projects as we speak. They should be coming on board around October, this October. And from that point, then we're going to start assessing the other locations. And so we are studying this one. We want to make sure that we have the right information. Obviously, the more Easy Pass users we have, the better and the easier the process is. So, those are all found. I think we're at 69%.
We're actually, I got the update before this meeting. We're at 74% for the Bay Bridge. The Key Bridge is over 80%, I think 82%, and the Hatem Bridge is 93%.
Yeah, 93.
Is that percentage different for summer versus, so are we experiencing more people without Easy Passes that are coming through in the summer on the way to the beach? Or is that 70%?
I only have the annual penetration rate. I don't have the by month or anything like that. We can certainly look at that and get you the information.
I would imagine you're right, Chris.
I would think.
People who live over here have Easy Pass.
Right.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, they're not going in the cash.
Bob,
So, speaking of the toll lanes,
How much money is owed to the toll system? I saw an article and I
About $100 million.
Is it really that much? $100 million bucks?
Yeah.
Wow.
From people who don't pay, you're talking
Right,
about.
yeah.
Yeah.
You mean outstanding?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that was an article not too long ago.
Yeah.
So the toll lanes, I guess I question that. We go from, and I've been across that thing 1,000 times on Fridays and Thursdays, but it just seems going from that 3 to 13 back to 2 is such a, I don't know, because you got people jockeying, people that get up there don't have easy pass, they're trying to get over the cat. It just seems like that is, would it not be better to just try and get people in line before they get and put them through a chute, just so that when they come out the other side, everybody's in line already, or? Just a question and an observation from going across it.
Yeah, I mean,
They can go into Annapolis, it's okay.
They would be.
Well, I mean, but it just seems like that bogs down falsely there at the bridge where it wouldn't have to. It could be at least moving across the bridge, it would seem.
as I mentioned before, we have a lot of really qualified people that monitor the traffic every single day and decide how many cash lanes to keep open, how many easy pass lanes. I think it would be a disservice to them to imply that the way that it's working isn't the best that it can work. I mean, in reality, if there was an all electronic tolling configuration there, the entire toll plaza would be eliminated in that,
Right, and
that
that's
whole
kind of what
separation.
I'm getting at, is if that was all wide open there, there would be no, nothing to stop the traffic flow. It would at least be steady, it would seem.
Yeah, but the problem is right now we do have something that stops traffic
Right,
flow.
I
And
get
that's the problem and that's the difference.
So when you guys were in the last year CTP meeting, they had said that we were within, was it last year or the year before, within 18 months, right, of being able to get electronic tolling at the bridge?
And that's on the other locations that he was talking about.
Oh,
Yeah.
only at those?
Yeah,
Okay,
right,
not the bridge.
Well, I think what we probably said was that we would be doing all electronic tolling in 18 months. We weren't
Okay.
sure at that time maybe where it was going to be, but again, because of the Easy Pass usage, it made more sense to start with those so we can get an idea of how it works, work out some of the bugs, if you will, and then move on to other locations.
So not to hold you to anything, what in your mind right now, what would you say that time frame is to maybe go all electronic at the Bay Bridge?
I couldn't answer it at this time, but I tell you, but let us do more of the studying.
Okay.
And then get back to you on that.
Perfect.
Okay?
Is there much or any weather risk in this contract getting it done if we had a long, cold, wet, or, or construction, or is that pretty secure?
No, the latex modified concrete, any concrete product is temperature sensitive.
That's what I'm
It
asking.
obviously has moisture issues. We do rely on
Yeah.
there being some reasonable weather time for the contractor to work. The contract includes a weather calendar that the contractor has to assume in their schedule so that they know how many lost days we anticipate based on history at the bridge. So there is some attempt to account for that when they plan the job, but yeah, I mean, if it's an act of God and, we get a constant blizzard through the winter, that would be a major problem.
Okay.
It would be a major problem.
And so I think I'll jump to the last topic.
Yeah, go ahead.
Dun, dun, dun.
Jimmy, take this one.
So again, you all asked for early information. So as you know, I'm new to the MDTA. We had spoken about some of the communication challenges in prior.
I've been a commissioner for 6 years, and this is the first time MDTA is coming from me. So I greatly appreciate you coming down here for that.
Great.
So-
And as I told you and Todd and Steve, we've been more than happy to continue this communication. I try to be a really good communicator with everything that I can share. And so I hope this is just the beginning of it. But so one of the other things that you had asked about at the meeting was the Bay Bridge crossing study. And so I told you I would look into it, and I've gotten a few emails from some people in the community. I told them I was looking into it, and I was. I wasn't just saying it, I was actually doing it. And I asked our folks how long they would need after our meeting. They said we need about a month. And I said, well, you have about 2 weeks because I'm going down there on the 27th, and I want to share as much information as we can, including the eastbound span that we talked about and the Bay Bridge crossing study. So they were hustling even all weekend, because I was on the phone with them all weekend, and even up to last night, trying to nail down some of these locations, because, we call, then we have to wait, make some other calls, get a call back, and so, we can request a location, but we have to wait on other people to get back to us. So we were literally, last night, finalizing the last location. So they did probably need more time, but we got it done.
Well, if you need more time to push it further down the bay, we'd be happy to give you a little bit more time to do that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, okay, might be a little late for that part, but no. So as you know, we rolled it out this morning. You all asked us, based on the last rollout, and I explained the last rollout how we wanted to get to the school system first. That's why we didn't, get it out to the elected officials first. But you all asked for the elected officials to get it first this morning, or get it first. So this morning we sent it out to all the elected officials first, and then rolled it out to the press. So they had it after you. We also sent it to the interagency coordinating committee at the same time that the press received it. So we are listening. We are trying to be better partners and communicate better. And so that's where we are right now. So again, we released it today. It was on the phone all day today with reporters, because you can imagine it generated a lot of buzz. So if there's anything, you want to know about this or
Yes.
questions, I'm sure you do.
For the public, I mean, just
Sure.
because a lot of people get confused timelines.
Uh-huh.
So here we are, this NEPA project, the process started in 2016.
Yep.
Right across the bridge at Northrop Grumman, as the governor made the announcement.
Yep.
Starting the NEPA, and now this is, my understanding, is the end of phase one.
So, well, this isn't the end of it. This starts the public meeting process, the open house meetings. So, as you can see, we have a list of what we proposed for the open house meetings. We go through that process because that is part of the NEPA process. Now, let me back up. Keep in mind that the NEPA process is the federal government's process. It is not our process.
Okay.
They are in charge. We are the ones that do it for the state and make sure all the state information is correct, but the feds control the process. And so we have to go through the public open meeting process. We'll do that. And then from there, we'll start identifying, we've identified the corridors, then we'll start identifying the corridor to look at.
Okay.
And then we start looking at some of the alternatives and some of the areas where it may actually be. Once that's completed, we expect that to be completed sometime around the summer of 2021.
So 2 years from now.
Then it moves to Tier 2.
And Tier 2 is what?
I'm sorry?
Tier 2 is what? What happens in Tier 2?
So Tier 2, so imagine we get down to 1. It's a 2-mile diameter on each side. So you have to start looking at the exact alignments. And it's all based on environmental concerns. When I talk about environmental concerns, I'm talking about historical sites, I'm talking about critical areas, we're talking about obviously going over water, we're talking about land use, which would impact you guys, and we're talking about jobs, all the environmental factors that go into where this bridge actually might be located. So that's a big part of it. And once that's identified, then you start narrowing down for where, how much it might cost, how long it is. I mean, all those factors that go into the Tier 2 study.
So,
and there's probably a whole lot more. Let me say this. I'm not the NEPA expert.
Understand.
Melissa Williams and Heather Lowe are our experts. Now, I will say, I would love for Heather to be here today because she's been running the project. But when I said that they only had 2 weeks, I did not realize that she was going to be on vacation this week.
Okay.
So it just so happens, I didn't ask her, but she is on vacation. So I couldn't bring her down for this meeting. But again, we have the open houses, and we'll be able to provide all kind of information.
But I guess I'm just trying, and I'm not holding you anything, but I mean, so we're talking 2021 to where a 2-mile or 4-mile stretch location will be selected. And then from 2021, how long till construction starts, or how long till engineering starts, or how long till you're driving on it? And it doesn't have, and we're not going to hold you to, but it would be nice to know that there's some light at the end of the tunnel.
Or bridges would be.
Light at the end of the bridge. Okay, good. I don't know that anyone can answer that question, because without knowing where it's going to be, how long it's going to be, what any of these alternatives and the placement, where it's going to be, I don't know that we can answer that question for you right now tonight.
You can't get me within a decade? You can't get me within 5 years? I mean, you see.
I can't.
Okay.
Others that are more familiar with the process may be able to, but even then, I mean, quite frankly, let me go back.
Okay.
Because as you know, there's 3 corridors that have been identified, plus one. And the plus one's a no build.
Right.
I would have to say that if it's deemed by the feds that there's no way you could go through this critical area and build a bridge, then no build would be an option. Okay. So I can't, and I don't think that's going to happen, okay, just to be clear. But you can't take it off the table, because we don't know what we don't know. We don't know what we're going to run into at this point.
Would you say that the Fed process is what's slowing this down?
Well, the federal process is a federal process.
I understand that.
I mean,
if
but
the
is
federal
that
process
is
wasn't
that
there, would it be faster? Is what
right?
you're saying.
Or I mean, if
Sure.
if what we're dealing with is the federal process, this NEPA is their way of doing this.
It is.
And their process is normally 10 years or 12 years. I don't know. That's what I'm asking. If their process is normally a certain length, then we know what we need to expect. And that's all I'm asking.
I mean, we do NEPAs all the time. It's different for every different project. I mean, you asked about ICC. I mean, the ICC, for example, took decades. It went through several governors. You asked Governor Hogan to start this process, and Governor Hogan started this process. But Governor Hogan doesn't control this process. The federal government does.
That's what I want to know.
And so we are going through the federal process, and again, we're trying to move it as quickly as we can, but there's certain criteria that we have to abide by.
I understand that, but
and I'll give you an example. So these public meetings, so we have to give 30-day notice ahead of a public meeting, and then we have to have the public meetings, and then we have to give 30 days of comment period after that, and then there's like a 10-day something or other where we have to answer questions. I mean, all those criteria are laid out, and it's not negotiable.
I understand.
Okay.
I understand, but we need to maybe focus our energy on the federal government and not so much on you. So, give you a little breather. But I mean, I've
don't
heard
make them
that,
mad.
Excuse me.
Don't make them mad.
I've heard that the American Legion Bridge had to go through a NEPA study, and what normally took 10 years took a little over 2 years, because President Trump's got his agencies working together with each other to speed up infrastructure in some of these projects. So, again, I mean, and that's what we've said this since the beginning is, no matter where the bridge goes, the longer it takes, the more Queen Anne's County is going to suffer. I mean, this will be, to go from redecking to maybe a year off to start an eastbound span is like the death penalty for Queen Anne's County. I mean, property values are already dropping. There's no light at the end of this tunnel. There's no hope. And coming out today with 4 selections, and I get that, and God bless you guys for coming here. And we appreciate everything you're doing. And we know, unfortunately, this got dropped in your lap. This is 35 years of neglect on this bridge that nothing's been done. No plans. I mean, the first one built in 52, then 72, and nothing for how many years is that, Jack?
47.
47 years, right. But so, I mean, so that, to that point,
Mathematician.
all the construction that's going on this bridge in the last 4 years is tremendous. But now, here we are, anchoring the eastbound side, and we don't see any hope. I mean, there's just, you know, we talked at Mako about throwing us a bone. I mean, anything. It's just, it's hard, and I hope you understand our situation here. So.
No, we do. And look, you know, some reporters were asking me about it today, you know, about the traffic impacts. And I was like, think about this. Not only did they build the bridges back when you said they did, and you know, obviously there was an explosion in economic development, both in zoning in these counties, as well as zoning and a huge effort to beef up Ocean City.
And Delaware.
And Delaware. So there was an explosion down there too. I mean, Ocean City was a sleepy little town when we were kids, right? I mean, but it's not now. And the fact that, for example, many governors, but Governor Schaefer especially, had the whole Reach the Beach platform, fixed the Nanacoat Bridge to help that traffic, did the bypass on around Salisbury.
In Vienna.
So, right, in Vienna. So all these things were occurring by previous governors, previous administrations, to get people from point A, wherever point A is, to Ocean City. And so you guys are feeling those many years of marketing and zoning changes in these different areas. So you're right. The bridge today would be built differently than it was 47 years ago. It just would be. And there may be, knowing what we know today, there may be different zoning decisions that were made, both within the different counties as well as Ocean City. So I get it, but we are where we are, and again, there's no magic wand here, but we're trying to get something moving.
I guess I want to ask this question. Did we have to come with 4 selections? Could we have come with 1 at this point?
No.
And that's because the feds won't let you?
Correct.
Okay.
So the way this process works, and quite frankly, I guess you could appreciate it somewhat. The feds are very careful about making sure it's not a political process. They don't want politicians making decisions to hurt or help people with where this bridge might, or any bridge, quite frankly, where it might go. And so to that extent, what they do is you have the environmental impact studies, you have the traffic impact studies, and you do a lot of these studies to determine the data. So the bottom line is they're going to look at the data to see what might be the best location. So I don't have the whole presentation here with me right now, but if you look at that at the website, I think it's, I don't know what page it's on. It's later in the presentation, but where it shows 6, 7, and 8, and it's got the numbers down there in the bottom. So you look at 2017 numbers, and then 2040 numbers, and then you can see. I mean, obviously, the larger the gap, the better the situation. So it's clear that number 7 is data-wise the best alternative. However, the way the feds do it, any alternative that shows a positive result must be included in the study. That's how it works. And so they're taking politics out of it. They're looking at the data drives the decisions. So we go from 14 to 3 plus the no build.
Right.
So 4, I guess, technically. And then from there, we narrow the scope even more.
And for the
But,
people, 7 is just people back home. 7 is quarter is right where the existing bridge is.
Correct. That's correct.
The irony of it is taking the politics out of it. one option to the north is Kent County, and to the south is St. Michael's and Talbot County, two of probably the very strongest counties when it comes to politics. So, I mean, you know, selecting one of those two just puts us in a no-build situation. I mean, again, the concern is that time frame. We don't even know what the time frame is. And if it gets selected to go somewhere where it's going to get fought in court, or you have to buy right away, we could be looking at 20 years. I mean, that's what I mean. You know, that.
No, I understand. Look, we didn't pick those.
I understand.
Because we want to go through St. Michael's.
Right.
Erin Henson, our communications director, would have my head if I did that. She lives in St. Michael's, right? So, but again, each one of those three showed a positive result in traffic, for traffic and getting off the current system. So we had to move forward all three. Would we have liked to come forward with one? Sure we would. The data, according to the feds, doesn't support that. So we did have to come forward with three. Again, it's clear to me, it's clear to others, it should be clear to a lot of people, which one has the best alternative. So the others are just, I can't say they're not likely.
I understand.
But they're less likely, okay, according to the feds. And if the feds do what they say they do and let the data control the process, you can see where it may end up being.
Question, sir.
Sure.
I've always been struck by the fact that before the public or anyone was asked about this, that there was no information out on the engineering, costing, likelihood. Right now, there's no basis of judging whether a crossing down in south is twice as much.
Makes more sense.
What's the point of it, including the public in any discussion until the relevant information you have to have to build this thing is available to the public? You see the point I'm making?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what's going to happen in the end is that information will trump anything that comes up along the way. So you might as well have that first rather than public first and then the engineering and costing of it.
Well, then they'd have to do engineering on all three of them.
That's what I'm saying. Well, at least a rough guess at it. But right now you've got absolutely nothing. And it might be that south is absolutely implausible.
It is.
And that's the point. You see, that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah. Well, listen, we've taken up
So real quick, if I can. So one of your dates that you gave us for the hearing at Queen Anne's High School just so happens to correspond to an initiative. We're rolling out an initiative for CTE programs for the 5 counties. Queen Anne's County kind of being the lead county in this. And so you want to have a hearing on a night when we're competing and all the electeds in the area are going to be hopefully at that event. Is there any way we can transfer that date? And
Is that the September 25th?
Correct.
The day before, day after?
Sure. I mean,
Can't be the day before. They're in Kent County.
They got 2 other dates here.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, again, you asked about public input. This is public input, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're asking us to change it. I think we can probably accommodate that. Let us look into it. I've also received some information from your elected officials behind me, from the state legislative group, and they asked if it could be even at a different location. So
Yeah, I think there is some question about that.
we'll certainly work with you on changing that if that's important to you.
It is indeed.
It's extremely important. It's a
That's all I need
huge
to know.
initiative.
Before I forget again, I would
See how this partnering thing works?
We're happy to help you with that too, to get that.
Don't yell at us.
But before I forget again, I would like to thank Senator Hershey, Delegate Aronson, Delegate Jacobs for joining us today with this. I appreciate you guys coming out here. And the last question
and that's
I have,
who I heard from, by the way.
right? The last question, and you're going to hear more from him. But the last question I have is about the brag. Is there any information you can share with us about the brag and what's going on there? You know, I know that there was a reformatting. Found out that was legislative, that organization, and there are certain mandates in there. So
we're going through the process right now.
Okay.
We're going to be putting it out for people to apply. they'll tell us, how they conform to that and why they want to be there.
You just said the acronym, nobody's.
Bay Bridge Reconstruction Advisory Group. There you go. There you go.
I'm sorry, yeah.
Yes, so the brag.
And,
But with that, I mean, I know you're putting it out there asking for.
Because he's a Marine, he's going to brag.
You're asking for resumes, but some of they're appointed. Some of the members are appointed.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, all right.
And so
you want to check back
and they will be.
Okay.
And we're not completed with the process yet.
Okay.
So we're still going through it.
Okay.
But you should be hearing something, I guess, a couple of weeks maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think we're pretty close.
Thank you. Anybody else have any more?
I can't get it all done at once.
Yeah. Well, we look forward to seeing you back here again.
Yeah.
In the not too distant future. Thank you very much. Can we keep the presentation?
It's on your computer.
Sure.
Excellent.
Sure.
Good. So that way we can put that on our website also.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And if you would, push people towards the open house.
Oh, I will.
I mean, we're asking all the press to
Yep.
do it.
Yep.
So we're more than happy to do that.
Safe travels back.
Yeah, thank you.
Did you mean that? Safe travels back. Did you mean that?
Yeah, because he's done. Okay, Todd, who's next?
All right, next up, we have the Executive Director, Mrs. Judy Wink, from the Chesapeake Bay Environmental Center for a quick update on her programs down there at CBEC. Judy, thanks for hanging in there with us. We're a little behind
apologize
schedule.
for that.
I learned more than I ever wanted to know.
That makes two of us.
All right.
I'll keep this quick. First of all, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to come before you and speak on behalf of CBEC, Chesapeake Bay Environmental Center, and I want to thank the county for what they do for the Environmental Center. Many residents and school kids benefit as a result of this, so thank you for your time. I know most of you know a lot about the center, but I'll give you a brief introduction in 3 parts. 1, I'll talk about the site a little bit and what's involved. 2, about the people and programming, and 3, about what our plans are for the future. At present, our site is 510 acres, although there's always a little whittling of shoreline here and there, but 510 acres off Perry Corner Road in Graysonville. We're a small nonprofit, and the area is a peninsula in Queen Anne's County. We are involved with education, restoration, and recreation. We're undergoing some restructuring of our board presently, taking a look at our mission and trying to incorporate some trends that are happening in environmental education and kind of the environmental stewardship. We have our main focus is education presently. We have much involvement with recreation as well. The people in the county are very interested in coming out to the site, relaxing, biking, kayaking. Kayaking is very big with us. We use the Marshy Creek area and once in a while Eastern Bay for kayaking. We have many hiking trails, about 4.5 miles that are well maintained, and we permit pet involvement, walking dogs, and people take their dogs out to the beach in Kent Narrows and that. We do require that all dogs are unleashed for the safety of people as well as the wildlife, the nesting wildlife and so forth. We have about 35,000 people that visit the center per year, and probably, I'm estimating this, we don't have a real good handle on tracking this information because not everybody signs in and so forth. But out of the 35,000 people that come on site, about 75% are Queen Anne's residents. The rest could be people back and forth from the beach, could be from the Western Shore, but about 75% of our annual participants are Queen Anne's County people. We service about 8,000 kids a school year, and also service Title I schools. which are schools that are of the lower socioeconomic status. We fit in with Maryland standards and next generation science standards, so we kind of supplement the school's environmental education program on a hands-on circumstance. As far as tourism goes, we work very closely with Queen Anne's Tourism and do a number of programs for tourism, and also meet the needs when the tourism site has people visiting the site. We take them around and try and cooperate with Queen Anne's County Tourism. As far as the people that use our services, we service every age from 2 to 90, and do more school programs and children's programs than we do adult programs, but we are expanding more into adult education, particularly with an emphasis on volunteerism and environmental literacy. As far as our plans for the future, we plan on adding 1 or 2 trails. We want to increase our kayak fleet. Presently, we have 8 structures on site, and 2 of them are not used. They're just used for storage. We are very pressed for space, so we're in the process of renovating an existing pavilion that's been on the site for 35 years. So we're in phase 1 of that. We're just working on the engineering plans for that, and we had a lot of help from our senator and representative in procuring some funding for renovating that particular structure.
What's that structure going to be? It's a pavilion now. Are you going to change the uses to storage, or?
Oh no, we're going to change use to user-friendly. We use that as our staging area for every school group,
Okay.
first of all. Secondly, we use it for events, and it's been there for about 30 years. So, it needs a tremendous amount of work. We want to try and make it a 4-season facility. Presently, we really only we stretch it, Phil. We use it from, I'd say, March 1st to December 1st. We try and stretch it out, but technically it's an open facility, so we want to try and make it a 4-season facility. But that probably is one of the facilities that gets the hardest use, even more so than our education building, mainly because we use it heavily with the school programs. We do have another pavilion out in our beach area that's kind of a staging area because of using different sites with the school groups or with adult education. We do have a couple other structures on the property that we're in the process of maintaining. I think probably, I don't want to hold you up, I know it's been a long session already, but I think that's kind of in a nutshell what we do. As I said, we're planning on improving the property down the road, mainly because we're in our 40th year and there has not been a lot of maintenance done the first 25 years. I came on in 2003, and when I first came to the site, it was noted to me that there were 8 ponds on the property, and it took me 2 years to find all 8 ponds, so you can imagine there was quite a bit of work that needed to be done on site. But that's basically our presentation, and I do want to thank the county. We applied for grants through the county the past couple of years, and as a result, we were able to get a handicap accessible and a very safe dock system for kayaking. And it's an excellent opportunity for challenged people to get out on the kayaks. They're fine once they're in the kayaks, but to get to the site is somewhat difficult. So with the one grant, we got a totally new dock system, and it's kind of state of the art. A couple of places have come to take a look at this dock system because of the ease of ability of getting in and out of kayaks with it. So that's what we used one of our funding, one of our grants for. And our second, we're using it in the process of the pavilion renovation with the engineering and to get us started on that. Anybody have any questions? Okay, thank
you. Do a great job. Looking forward to the fundraiser.
Yeah, we got a lot of things coming up. We try to make some money too on this side. So, thank you very much.
That was a lot of information you shared in with no notes.
Yeah, if she knows it.
I'm very passionate about the place, and I'm on the pulse of it every day, so I kind of know.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah, thanks, Judy. Okay, next we have Donna Landis-Smith. We have a agricultural land preservation easement applications public hearing. So Donna, and thank you for hanging in there as well this evening. So take it away.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
I am bringing forward the easement applications that are going to be submitted to the state. They were actually submitted the 1st of June. These are farms or properties that have never applied to the easement process before, and the state requires you to have a public comment, public hearing for those particular parcels. So we ran a 2-week ad in the Record Observer the week of August the 9th and the week of August the 16th. Notice of hearing pursuant to the Agriculture Article Section 2-504 of the Annotated Code of Maryland, the County Commissioners of Queen Anne's County will hold a public hearing August 27th, 2019 at 6:15 or approximate in their office at 107 North Liberty Street, Centerville, Maryland. The hearing is held to receive public comments on the establishment of agricultural preservation easement-only applications on the lands owned by the following petitioners: Kurt Babe on Hope Road in Centerville, 3rd Election District, Tax Map 45, Parcel 49, 56.445 acres. Black Dog Farms of Kingsdale LLC, Kingsdale Farm Lane, Queen Anne, 6th Election District, Tax Map 68, Parcel 11, 148 acres. The Coleman Hedgewood Farm LLC, Coleman Road, Suttersville, 1st Election District, Tax Map 12, Parcel 24, 160.499 acres. Pippin LLC, Palmataries Farm Lane, Churchill, 2nd Election District, Tax Map 23, Parcel 30, 162.04 acres. Star Realty LLC and William E. Jackson Star Road, Queen Anne, 6th Election District, Tax Map 69, Parcel 4, 158.05 acres. Truett Farm LLC, Millington Road, Barclay, 1st Election District, Tax Map 6, Parcel 39, 103.858 acres. The Queen Anne's County Agricultural Preservation Advisory Board has given favorable recommendations to the County Commissioners in the submission of the agricultural preservation easement applications. Direct any comments regarding agricultural preservation to Donna Landis-Smith at Queen Anne's County Soil Conservation, 211 East Water Street, Centerville, 443-988-4178. All hearing sites are accessible to individuals with disabilities. Sign language interpreters and assistive listening devices will be available for individuals with hearing impairments. Please contact Tina Miles at 410-758-4406 or TDD 410-758-2126, 7 days before the hearing date, if above is needed for the meeting. Queen Anne's County Board of County Commissioners, Margie Houck, Clerk to the County Commissioners. That was the advertisement that was in the paper.
So we don't have anybody that's signed up to speak. So Jim?
We'll close public comment. There you go.
How long before we'll hear anything on these?
They are being appraised right now.
Okay.
They will probably be finished around October, and then they get submitted to the Assistant Attorney General's office. There's 2 appraisals done on each farm. The state paid for those appraisals. There's no cost to the landowners. We'll probably hear something roughly April or May on the funding, so I will be coming in front of you probably before the end of the year about some county matching funds. These 6 farms that are brand new that have never applied before is 788.927 acres. There are also 3 other farms that are applying as well, but they've been in front of you and have been approved through a public hearing prior to this. That is an additional 446.366 acres. So we're submitting 9 farms total for 1,235 acres, 1,235.293 acres. The state actually allows us to submit 12 applications, but we were in the second round offer of last year's funding, so we got 3 additional farms in the second round offers, so those were in this cycle as well. So our local advisory board decided to leave it at 12 applications, so we wouldn't be spending extra money on appraisals that weren't needed, since we don't normally get that many farms in preservation. So we'll be submitting 9 instead of 12 because of the funding from last year.
So I will move to approve the 6 mouth easement applications be submitted to the Mouth Board of Trustees for approval and submission for appraisal.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved.
I did want to add one thing. Our submittal from last year, you all put matching funds in of $750,000. We submitted 11 applications. 8 of those were funded through first round and second round. We received $4,694,992 for your $750,000 match. In addition, we received from Rural Legacy $1,315,435 acres. So we received
Acres or dollars?
I mean dollars.
Okay.
Sorry.
Woo,
I'm
wow.
sorry. Dollars. Yeah, that would be nice. That would be great.
Wow, that's my kind of farm.
So our total preservation for 2018, 2019, because across calendar years, was $6,010,427.
For our 700.
And how many acres?
1,685 acres were preserved this past year.
Is that the largest one you've ever done?
Not quite.
Really?
Yeah, not quite.
Wow, we got something.
Yeah.
We got the bar set.
Yeah,
Excellent.
Got challenged now.
Yeah, good challenge.
In 2008, we received $8 million, but this is the highest that it's
Wow.
been since 2008. So we were very, very fortunate, and our easements are funded at about 47% of the appraised value. So they're taking a huge discount of what the actual appraised value is. That's why we
Both rounds or the second round?
second round.
Okay.
That's why we benefit so much from getting second round money, and we actually got $2 million in second round money because
But
of the
those farmers have
discounted
to agree to
value.
that
Yes.
cut.
Yeah,
most
and
of
it's
them
their
do, I
asking price. It's what they requested. Everybody got what they asked for.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
It's 47% of appraised, but not
Yeah.
sales.
No, no,
so
yeah,
you
yeah,
never know.
yeah. Right.
yes. So we're now at 40,000 acres of Mouth and rural legacy acres being preserved in the county.
And how many do we got to go?
I have 140 on the list, about 100,000 acres to go.
Really?
Yes.
100,000 acres. All right.
But we keep
Couple more years,
poking
we should have that
away.
done. Yeah.
If we can keep poking away at 10 and 11 every year,
We're
we'll
going to need
have
some more
some
solar
success.
farms.
Yes, we are.
Yes.
Yes, we are.
So,
Thank you very
any
much.
other questions?
Thank you, Donna.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Tom. Yep, thank you. All right, next we have the Chop Tank Electric Cooperative, their broadband initiative, and we have Mike Melandro, President and CEO of his team. If he can introduce his folks and come on up. If you want to turn, Commissioners, to tab 6, item number 3. They have their presentation. Yep, it's in here. Yep. Tab 6, item 3, it's page 13.
We're not even going to charge you for the wealth of information you guys got tonight, but having to sit through all that, just so you know.
Apologize for that, but that was kind of important, so.
Not here to build a bridge.
Well, if you were, we'd be really happy to see you.
Broadband's pretty important, too.
That's true.
Yes, it is.
We got to stay at home. We better have good
Good
activity.
Better be able to stream some good TV.
We're gonna have more people working from home, I assure
That's
you.
it.
Yeah, no doubt.
I guess I'll go ahead and kick this off. For the record, my name is Matt Defoe. I'm the Government Affairs Manager for Chop Tank Electric Cooperative. And I want to start off with some introductions here. We have tonight, actually in the audience is Bob Arnold, our Board of Directors representative from Queen Anne's County, and also Jeff Raffle, our President of the Board of Chop Tank Electric Cooperative. And also Bernie Mazak is in the audience. He's with Cornerstone Government Affairs. We are working closely with them in Annapolis with this upcoming session on our initiatives. And then with me, I have Valerie Connolly, our VP of Government Affairs and Public Relations, and Mike Melandro, CEO, President. I passed out some packets of information, an overview of Chop Tank Electric, and Val is going to touch on the PowerPoint presentation as well. I'm just going to set a stage here real quick of Chop Tank's footprint in the county. Currently, we have about 2,934 meters in the county. Now, not every meter is one member. If you go based on a household of 4, and the current population in Queen Anne's County, we range from 17 to 25% of the county population that we serve. And also, we have about 1/3 of the land mass within the county and within our service area. Very rural, either underserved or not served at all areas when it comes to services like broadband. And then lastly, last year we paid $214,000 in real estate and personal property tax, so we contribute back to the local county economy as well. So that's our footprint in broad, and I'm going to hand it over to Valerie to talk about our upcoming initiatives.
Great, thank you very much. We sent to you a copy of a PowerPoint presentation. I'm not going to read every word in it, but I'm going to flip through it just so I can hit the highlights for you. Oh, it is up there. Do you want me? Oh, Bernie's got it. Good. All right, so on the first page, I just wanted to highlight that Chop Tank Electric Cooperative is a nonprofit. It is a cooperative that was started in 1938 by 184 rural residents who came together under the Rural Electrification Act to bring electricity to their homes, farms, and not-for-profit. Well, it's a not-for-profit business, but to bring electricity to their homes, farms, and other businesses on the Eastern Shore. And they did this because the for-profit electric companies weren't bringing electricity. And so it's a science, it's a process that has proven to work across the country to bring services to rural areas when there aren't others willing to do it. Currently, we have 620 miles of power lines on the Eastern Shore and 650 miles of middle mile fiber, which could be used for broadband service. We have about 158 full-time employees working to service those miles. Again, our board of directors is democratically elected by the members of the co-op, and the members of the co-op are the owners. So we have no incentive to raise prices or to charge fees to our members beyond what is needed to deliver service, because at the end of the year, it all gets credited back to them. 36% of the residents in Maryland are without internet service that meets FCC standards, and a good number of them are here on the Eastern Shore. And so our members have said they'd like us to bring broadband service as part of the services we offer as a co-op. And so our board of directors is going down that road. It's not something that we are doing uniquely. Electric co-ops across the country are offering broadband service to their members. The Federal Communications Commission is preparing to offer about $20 billion to not necessarily only to cooperatives, but they are targeting cooperatives, again, because we have a formula that works, and they want to make sure we get broadband out to rural citizens who have been denied for so long. And it is something that the state of Maryland's been working on. There's a broadband task force that's filed 2 years' worth of reports to the General Assembly on ways to try and make broadband work here on the shore. And so we're saying why now and why the co-op? And again, we have more than 11,000 businesses on the Eastern Shore. We know that small businesses develop faster when they have high-speed internet. Telemedicine is a huge issue that we hear about. And we know that we can make telemedicine work better if there is broadband access in the homes across this region. Agriculture is, before I joined Chop Tank, I worked with the Maryland Farm Bureau for 24 years, and I know that one of the things we're trying to help farmers do is meet the goals for Chesapeake Bay restoration. And a lot of the equipment they need to invest in and the processes they need to use involve having access to high-speed internet. And the customers of co-op, the members of our co-op in Queen Anne's County are primarily in the farming region in your county. Educational opportunities, we constantly hear from parents who say they have to drive their kids to a local establishment that has Wi-Fi so that they can do some of the homework they need to do. So we want to make that possible. And in short, lack of broadband is one of the #1 complaints we hear from folks here on the Eastern Shore. We want to be able to leverage the assets that we have at the co-op. And to do that, we're going to end up going to the General Assembly this year to seek passage of legislation that will relieve some of our regulatory restraints through the Public Service Commission. And we are hoping that Queen Anne's County can be a partner as we move forward with this bill. We'll be working with the Eastern Shore delegation. Last year, they did pass a bill that allows us to use the rights of way that we already have negotiated for electric service so that we can also offer broadband service on those same right-of-ways. And this year, we just need this additional piece of legislation
to give us the flexibility, again, to be able to use the economies of scale that we have at the co-op to deliver broadband. Under the current regs, we can't use the resources of the co-op for anything other than electricity provision. So we want to be able to use our workforce and our assets to make this happen here on the shore. So a lot of the other talking points we had in here are just to kind of hit home the point we're making. The last or second to last page is a what can you do to help. And for local government officials, we will be asking for a letter of support as we get close to the General Assembly session in January. We don't have a bill number yet, and we don't have the final draft, but we will share that with you as soon as we have it available. So Mike Melandra, who is our president and CEO, brought this vision. He comes from a co-op in Virginia where they rolled out broadband through their co-op, and it was a very successful business. So Mike has brought his vision, and he is here to answer any questions you guys have.
I've met with Mike a few months back when he first pitched this idea, and I thought it was great. I'm a Chop Tank customer, so I'm definitely happy about it. But just the whole idea, I mean, there's finally somebody at the federal level that's using common sense. I mean, the Rural Electrification Act was done through co-ops. It makes sense that the rural broadband should be done through the same co-ops, or at least allow them to do it. Some may not. Then one of my questions was, and another thing I guess it sticks is, even though you would cross over Delmarva right-of-ways in several instances, and I know that's probably a question that'll get asked at other, is that going to be an issue where you, so say you wanted to expand to southern Queen Anne's County where you don't have a footprint, are you going to have that opportunity to create competition, or is that something that's not going to be available?
Yes, you'll be able to go on to the Delmarva lines. We would be like any other utility that wants to get on Delmarva lines. We'd have a contract with them to get on their poles or into their right-of-ways, and then we'd move into that territory. So would we do it right out of the gate? Maybe. It's where it makes sense. So where I come from, we had Dominion, and we would, there was a couple of places right out of the gate. We were trying to serve the members first, but we did move into Dominion's territories and a couple of places where it made sense, where we had a project, and then we started serving Dominion territory, Dominion electric customers, and they became members of the co-op through internet service. So our goal is not really to go out and compete with anybody. We want to get out and get the unserved areas, and then later on, you know, if we get into the situation, we may start to compete people at that point. Because we are bringing it to the rural areas, ours is going to cost a little bit more, so it would be kind of tough for us to get into more dense areas and start to try and compete with the big guys that can operate on a whole lot less margin. We need the money to reinvest back into our system.
Well, you'll see that there's a lot of people that aren't happy with what they have, and I think wouldn't mind paying a little more.
Right,
to get
and trust me, we'll be there. I mean, this can be done. It's been done. We just need to get this legislation passed in order to take that next step, and then the next step would be financing. Part of the financing, there's $20 billion the federal government's going to put on the street. For us to miss that opportunity, it will be a huge miss for this area.
If you guys could, and if I could get you to, would you set up to maybe stop in with our Broadband Advisory Commission in September? Because they can create an additional letter of support, and because they've vetted it, we have our feasibility study going on, which is all probably information that anybody that wants to bring broadband to the county be able to utilize. So,
Be happy to.
And to put it in perspective on the amount of money that the federal government's going to put out there, this last CAV auction, which I successfully acquired money out of at my other cooperative, had $2 billion available, and out of that, the Eastern Shore with the 9 counties had $30 million available of the $2 billion. So now you're going 10 times that. You know, I don't even know what the new maps are going to be or how much money is going to be available. It's going to be significant, and so you got to be poised to go get it.
Now, how is this going to dovetail into the governor's latest announcement of $10 million and $100 million over 5 years? Is there?
I mean, the $10 million when it comes to broadband is really it's nothing.
Well, I get that, but it can be used. Couldn't it be used for the electronic side upgrades and stuff to keep ahead of the?
It would probably be used to help us with any kind of feasibility study that we need to put together for the federal grant application.
So the governor's proposal is that any county needs a partner in regards to a feasible study or deployment of fiber. So the counties would be the ones that would either ask us as a cooperative to help with deployment or...
Similar to what we did with the last go-round when they only had the $2 million. Similar process. Right. Okay. So it's got to be a shovel-ready project in order to apply for it, basically.
And it has to be to an unserved
Right, yeah. Well, the last go-round didn't have to be, it could be
This round, they're saying it is unserved.
unserved. Well, he made that announcement in Macon, was pretty
So how does that work if you're going down a road where there's 10 farms, 2 of them have internet and the rest don't? Are you allowed to offer to those 2 that have internet since you're crossing in front of their faces, or when they say unserved? You know what I mean? I mean, it's.
Well, I'm trying to think through that answer because I'm not 100% sure, but I would imagine we could offer it to them at their expense.
Right.
And, you know, we're going right past their area, so it would be our expense, but we probably wouldn't be able to use state money out of that $10 million pot to get it to their.
Good luck finding that scenario, though.
No, I'm just
You
saying-
find 10 farms,
Yeah.
none of them are going to have internet.
I understand.
Let's bet on that one.
Well, I'm thinking more of when they get down a little bit further where it's not so.
But you raise an interesting point I was going to bring up. So like, for instance, when you go through the stretch along 313, when you get in and out of town limits, it's Sudlersville and between Barclay and Millington, you guys serve outside the town limits for that stretch. And then you pick back up Delmarva when you hit. Are you guys going to be able to cross, are you going to have to take roundabout ways, or are you going to be allowed to cross, because you're going to be crossing people that have broadband through ABB in those towns to get to the unserved beyond that? So how are they going to differentiate that, you know, half a mile of fiber run through the town poles versus the 5 miles that you ran to get to the 5 farms, Jim's 10 farms or
That would
whatever?
probably be Chop Tank's investment with, you know, our members saying that they want to
It's
go
just-
through that
it's really
area
just
rather than using federal government.
It's an engineering infrastructure problem that's not insurmountable by any means. I mean, it's.
But you're not going to have any hangups from the legislative standpoint. The legislation, once you have it, you'll have the right of ways to traverse those areas.
Once we get that piece, the next, like I said, the next piece is financing. And then after we secure financing, then we'd start doing the infrastructure, which we've been doing for 80 years. So we know what we're doing.
Right.
It's just a different flavor of
But the 8 years you've been doing it, but you got it all lit. The
80 electric.
Yeah.
So here's the thing: if we can get the electricity to the house, which costs a lot more to build than fiber, we can get it done. But I think there's been a lot of studies and different reports out there that say, well, you got to have X amount of density, so forth and so on. These are all for-profit companies that require X amount of profit
Return.
before they'll even venture into something. So, you know, the cooperative, you can imagine our typical margin on a customer is like $3.50 a month. I mean, Comcast couldn't handle that. They get a business.
So the densities we've always talked about were 20 a mile. Are you substantially under that?
Now the co-op is around 8.5 right now.
Really fabulous.
Right, and so, and the beauty of it is, people talk about how do we get it out to the people that are already there. My question is, how easy it will be when we're already taking the electricity there and I just string another little piece of fiber along with me. Right. Well, then it don't cost anything hardly, because I already got guys working. And that's kind of the beauty behind this. Once we get it built out over a 10-year period, then, you know, the new stuff just kind of comes on and we solve this problem.
So immediate to your request, do you have a generic letter that you want us, or do you want us to do you want to call one of us up and tell us what you want?
Yeah, if that's okay, we'd love to get back to you with a draft letter, and you can,
please contact
fix it
this
up the way
man
you
and
like. Sure.
get a hold of
I'd be
Tom.
happy to.
Yeah.
I'm sure talking with your broadband task force or your broadband commission, we could.
Yeah. Now, how much area do you have in Queen Anne's County right now you're servicing?
About 1/3 of the.
1/3?
Yep.
And to put fiber at 1/3, how long does that take?
It all depends.
I mean, like the rich guy.
You keep
I'm
asking
talking-
these hard questions.
2 years?
How long? You're doing 10 years.
I'll say this. When we got
Maybe
rolling,
you can give us
when
hope.
we got rolling to the last place, we could build 10 miles of fiber, backbone fiber a week, and we could do 40 services a week.
Wow.
That's once we were up to speed, and that was with a company about a quarter of the size of Chop Tank. But we also are going to be spread out over more areas. It really just comes down to the amount of money we have. So if we got a lot of money, then we can move really fast because we can bring more resources in. So, you know, we can't step on the gas if we don't got the money, because then we just shoot ourselves in the foot. So that's kind of the pitch, you know, I made to a lot of the counties. We entered into a lot of public-private partnerships with the counties. And they said, okay, well, we'll give you $1 million. And I said, well, COB will match it. And then we'll put X amount of resources in your county and it'll speed it along. So instead of it taking, you know, 2 years, we were able to get it done in a year. We guaranteed X amount of customers within a certain time frame. And so I know they just wrapped up the last county about 3 months ago. So we were 3.5 years ahead of schedule. So.
See how that's it, Jim.
Yeah. See?
A lot of things factor into it. It's has a lot of details, a lot of engineering, but the good thing is, this is kind of what we've been doing for a very long time. We're good at it.
Sometimes hope is enough to get you through to the next mile marker.
So you're really looking timeframe past the legislative session, obviously, and then you would go for the federal funding. So we're third quarter to fourth quarter next year before.
Yeah, I'm thinking if everything falls in place like we need it to, we could potentially be constructing services the first of next year. All goes
Year
well.
after.
Next year.
Yeah, I mean,
2021.
2021, right.
2021.
Okay, great. Well, just let us know what you need when you need it.
Yeah,
Very good.
There's your vote, we're all in.
We appreciate it. And I'll reach out to them.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Sorry you had to wait so long.
Great.
Thank you very much. And our final presentation, tab 6, page 26, our Upper Shore Workforce Investment Board. Dan McDermott, the Executive Director, and he gets the prize for hanging in there the longest. Thank you, Dan.
He does.
Sometimes I feel like the work we do requires as much work as to build the bridge, and then we generate MOUs.
Yeah.
So the feds make us do about the same amount of work to produce that. Thank you for your agenda time, your interest in what we do. Thanks for appointing good people to our board. Beverly Churchill, Bill Bailey, Eric Daniels, Susan Coppage. Another Queen Anne's County resident, Jim Cutter, serves as representative of Communication Workers of America. So I appreciate those folks, showing up and doing the stuff for free and volunteering to do that instead of umpire Little League games and other stuff they do.
Jim Cutter does umpire Little League.
I know, and I make him get on his calendar and put my days in and not, he won't umpire those days.
I've done several games with him, and after the games, this is the subject matter.
Yeah.
Not the calls we missed or the ones we thought
Talk
we
about
got right,
workforce.
but what's going on here with workforce.
Yeah, so the upper, as background, the thing we're working on from the board point of view and staff point of view is how can we say yes to more people? Can you help me find a job? Yes. Can you help me do a resume? Yes. Can you help me get a high school diploma? Yes. Can you help me get training? Yes. The Workforce Board itself came into being in 1983 and is structured as a 501c3 nonprofit. Chesapeake College is our fiscal agent. That's an agreement we have with them. It's very advantageous to both parties. Our basic job is to implement and administer federal and state funds for employment and training. Our major program is the Federal Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, and we stay in business by being recertified by the governor every 2 years and meeting the performance from the federal government, which is how many people got a job, kept a job, how much money did they make, did they get a skills gain and earn a credential. We also have had 36 years of clean audits. That's the other way you stay in business. Make performance and have clean audits. And so that's who we are and how long we've been around. We ask for county concurrence on documents because the feds tell us to and the governor tells us to, but it's really as a way to assure the counties that services are being delivered in the county and how those services might look. So what do the counties concur on for us? First, you appoint the members, the good people you have working for us. You concur when we submit our local plan, our regional plan, and the most recent concurrence we're looking for is on our memorandum of understanding with our 13 federal funded partners. So one of the things that we do is we get together with these 13 different representatives of the different federal money that comes into the area, and we figure out how can we work together, get to know each other, understand our expertise, and not duplicate to the extent that that's possible. The positive about that is we build stronger ties with our local partners, understand their expertise, understand who we are and who they are and what we do. The negative about that negotiation is a lot of the state agencies don't have the autonomy to make decisions, and we have to send stuff up, and then it comes back, and we send it up, and it comes back. And if it changes at one agency, then we have to send it to the other agencies to have them relook at it to see if they can agree with all that. You all don't see that because by the time we send something to you, everyone else has already said it's okay. I wouldn't want to send something to you and then keep sending it to you time and time again. So the memorandum of understanding that we're working on concurrence now really tells the who, what, when, where, why, and how that we're going to do stuff. And that's how we all work together in all the counties, and how we can help people in your county have us say yes to them. There are really two parts of the agreement. One is sort of the philosophical part. The other part is how we're going to pay for stuff. The philosophical part is the easy part. How we're going to pay for stuff is the hard part. And I've got to say, if it wasn't for social services and Susan Coppage in this county, we would be struggling to provide services. She's given us, a great location and all the infrastructure we need to get that, to have a presence here. So that's kind of where, what we have in front of you is a memorandum of understanding. That's, again, how we all decide the who, what, when, where, how that we're going to deliver services. This is our third MOU in 5 years. Every time signatory authorities change, we have to go and do it again. So hopefully this one will stick for a year or two, and we won't have to come back again. But if we do, we do. So that's what's going on with us, and that's, what we're looking for concurrence on now.
So motion to sign the MOU for the Shore Workforce Investment Board.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing
One
none?
quick question,
Oh,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Do you folks do anything in detention? Because one problem we've got is that we got a bunch of people over there that get out and can't do anything.
We're working more with the idea of ex-offenders than we ever have. We have in the past gone into the detention center. We're working now with parole and probation and the detention centers across the 5 counties to see how we can get those folks to understand who we are and feel comfortable, so when they get out, they can come right to us and we can get started with them behind the wall, and then get into them as soon as they get out. So, and I will say, as an aside, as strong as the economy is now, we're having some success with ex-offenders.
Yeah.
Because, employers need people, and they're willing to take some chances on some people that in the past hasn't been as easy.
I take your point.
Yep.
All right. So we're voting to approve the MOU. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved. Thank you very much. Thank you for waiting.
Thank you for all your great work.
Thanks.
Okay, Commissioners, if you want to turn, we have a few legislative items this evening. I want to turn back to tab 7. And
cannot go backwards. Must go forward.
Must go forward.
Okay, we're going forward to tab 7. This is a scheduling a public hearing for MAP Amendment 1905, replacement of the buffer exempt area, modified buffer exempt. And if you remember, this came back before you for conceptual approval. It's going to Critical Area Commission. They've approved it, so now we have the final step in the process to schedule the public hearing to make this critical area boundary line adjustment.
I move to schedule a public hearing regarding MAP Amendment 1905 to the Queen Anne's County Critical Area Program to update and expand Queen Anne's County Modified Buffer Area.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved.
Okay, next we have amendment number 1 to County Ordinance 1913, and this is the prohibition of the release of non-biodegradable balloons within Queen Anne's County. And we have an amendment that we can consider first for introduction and a vote, followed by the ordinance.
I'll introduce it, and this is merely an amendment to the balloon ordinance to take into consideration what we heard from the Hot Air Balloon Association about these test balloons that they need to release for safety. It's a de minimis amount of balloons, if any, that would be released.
I think they said maybe
What,
5.
wait, what amount?
De minimis.
Okay.
Whoa.
I thought you said.
Oh.
Hey, that
You gotta
sounds
spell
like,
that too. Yeah.
That actually sounds like a Stevie word.
Should I say?
No. No.
Put that in the motion.
All right.
I could say it, I can't spell it.
Minimis amount.
The what?
So you introduced it. Did you?
We got a motion to adopt amendment. Yeah, he introduced it, so now a motion to adopt Amendment 1 to Ordinance 1913.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
There we go.
Okay,
Now
now we
motion
have
to
ordinance.
adopt ordinance 1913 as amended.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion there? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. There we go, Margie. Double fives.
Good luck enforcing that.
Bada bing.
Okay, we have one
he
final
said de
item. That's our
minimis.
press and public comments, part 2. Thank you for taking the time to express your views to the county commissioners during this public comment period. Comments are limited to 3 minutes in length. Comments longer than 3 minutes should be submitted in writing. When you come forward, please speak clearly at the standing microphone. State your name, address, topic of interest. Keeping with the dignity of the office, we ask that all views be expressed in a respectful and civil manner. The commission respects your desire and right to convey your message freely. We ask as a courtesy to the board and our citizens that you respect the commissioner's request to refrain from naming citizens and name-calling when offering any critique.
Okay, nobody signed up. Would anybody like to speak? Mr. Falstad.
Hey.
Thank you, Commissioners. I just wanted to say thank you for passing Ordinance 1913. In particular, Commissioner Cortorino, thanks for bringing it forward. This is, from an environmental standpoint, kind of a big night because it makes Queen Anne's County the very first county in the state to have such a ban. And it may seem like a small thing in the whole scheme of things, given the amount of pollution and litter that's out there. But I want to congratulate you because it's definitely a step in the right direction, and hopefully other counties will follow suit, and maybe even the state itself will be bold enough to bring something forward, and hopefully we can be a leader and a model for the rest of the country. So thank you very much.
You can, talk to.
We already have. So.
I can imagine he wasn't getting out of here.
He's not getting out of here. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak? Huh? Okay, seeing none, we'll go on to Commissioners' Roundtable. Jack, I'm going to give you the option. You want to go first or second to last?
Man, this is a tough one.
Flip a coin.
I'm going to go second to last. I've never done
Second
that.
to last.
I've never done that before. That's like a newbie.
Chris?
I'm first?
You're first.
Okay. Well, a lot since our last meeting. We attended the Maryland Association of Counties meeting. All the commissioners made an appearance at different parts of that. A lot of great opportunities to talk with other county officials throughout the state of Maryland on the challenges and successes that they're having as well as ours. It's always a great thing. Phil and I got to learn a lot about the dangers of lemonade stands. Evidently, not a law we will be worried about here in Queen Anne's County. And then agricultural tour. So thank you to everybody who put that together, and for those who attended it. It was really great to see the different types of agriculture operations that are going on in the county and get a better appreciation for the work that they put in, and interestingly, the different technology that they have. I think some people would be really impressed at the high technology that they have incorporated into a lot of these facilities, which underscores also the reason for getting broadband throughout the county.
Very good. Commissioner Duvenel.
Yes.
A visual aid.
Yes, we have a visual aid. So a reminder, next Thursday at 7:30 at Ken Island Volunteer Firehouse is a kickoff for the county's opiate and heroin crisis.
Queen Anne's
County goes purple month. So please show up to Ken Island Volunteer Firehouse at 7:30 a week next Thursday and participate in this. I will have my carriage lights in my garage purple. All the lights in my house will be purple. Try my headlights as well, purple.
Oh my.
You're liable to get
Is that the one that
sheriff's
sings?
liable to talk to you about that.
Is that the one that sings back and forth?
Yeah, it goes, very funny.
You good?
Yeah, Kit's finished talking.
Commissioner
talking.
Wilson.
Yeah, well, let's see where we're going to start this one. I had heard through Mr. Falstad, I believe, that you had some problem with effluent issued from boats.
Yes.
I think we ought to do something about that if we
Well,
can.
we are working on that, collecting some data, yes. And we've set a meeting up with DNR, Secretary Hadaway, to see if we can introduce it. And I've gone to Kent County and to Talbot County and to Caroline just to ask them their feelings on it and see if they had any input on that. So, yes. So,
Any samples returned yet?
District 2 feels strongly about it too.
Yeah.
Any of your samples returned yet?
yes.
Okay.
And it was loaded with E. coli.
Wow.
So not only are they pumping out, but it hasn't been treated. And this is in the Y River. and one of the swimming places that the state checks is there. So it makes no sense to me why wherever you fill up a gas, you can't pump out your boat. It makes, I'm lost at that. It's free. So
Yeah.
why would you want to do it in the river where you're parking your boat and swimming? And anyway, so
I feel
yes.
the same. We've got Conquest Beach, and right
Yeah.
next to us another unofficial beach, and
Yeah.
hundreds of boats come there, and toilet paper and everything
Oh, yeah.
floating through. So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
so that's one issue. I think we had a very happy meeting on the subject of traffic, and I felt that was good. I have asked long ago that I think the state ought to consider a regional traffic management system for the Bay Bridge corridor, because there's a certain lack of coordination at times between the bridge, sheriff, emergency, MSP, and so on. I still think that would be a good idea and something along the way we could ask about, because it's just very hopscotch right now, with sometimes they call, sometimes they don't, and who calls who, and you know how it is.
I do. Yes. Yes. Good. Okay. Commissioner Wilson, the junior.
All right, so first off, to follow up with Commissioner Dumanel's advertisement for Queen Anne's County Goes Purple, since I will not be able to attend the event on the 5th because I have an FEC meeting that night. In that spirit, I would like to have a consensus among the commissioners to wear something purple at our next meeting, whether it be the Queen Anne's County Goes Purple shirt as our last meeting before we go back to ties and the stranglehold of the corporate world. So just throwing that out there if the commission so sees fit.
So I believe that I could probably talk the Kelly and Chris's daughters to put together some special purple ribbons for the commissioners to wear in conjunction with our commissioner pins for the entire month of September's meetings.
Okay.
How about
So I'll negotiate that
undergarments?
contract.
You take care of that.
What's that?
Undergarments.
Undergarments?
That's your own choice.
You know what? TMI, and you're on your own there. So
Not optional, but your choice.
Exactly. And so, see, I like this going last because you can follow up on other people. So to follow up on Commissioner Corcorino's assessment of Mako, I think Queen Anne's County did very well down in Mako. I mean, we didn't get everything we wanted, but like kids at Christmas, you can't always get everything you want. But I think we had some great meetings with other counties here on the shore. I know personally, in terms of Project Bright Future, I was able to secure the support of the other 4 counties, their elected officials, to support the project on September 25th. And so that was big to have the counties on board for when we go for our legislative initiative to back in Annapolis this winter and hopefully be successful. The other thing is, obviously, the governor's announcement really goes with what we heard tonight from Chop Tank. Any amount of money put into broadband at this point is good. I mean, we should be applauding all of it. 3-4 years ago, we were trying to scrape $6.5 million so we could get broadband here in the county, and now it seems like money's just falling from the sky. So no complaints there. I mean, let's just take what we can get and let's get these unserved areas served. And then finally, what was probably the major talk and a lot of backroom talk and things at Mako was obviously Kerwin. Kerwin's going to start the legislative session probably as House Bill 1, and it's going to end on Sindai as probably the last thing they get done there. As I'm sure some of you have seen in the news, there's been a bit of a sparring between the governor and some of the Democratic legislators in terms of how to pay for this, how's it going to work, what's the county's burden going to be? And again, these are all questions unanswered as of today. And it's going to be, and the talk amongst most of the county officials, big or small, it didn't matter, was what is the impact going to be on the individual counties in Maryland? I don't think anybody disagrees that the education system needs some fixing. I was talking to Commissioner Moran today, and I kind of cited some history, the fact that Thornton formula was created back in 1997, 22 years ago. It wasn't actually put into place until around 2002 when the funding happened. And if you look at what Thornton did, it was supposed to make education equitable throughout the state, both monetarily and results-wise. And if you look at where the results are today, 22 years later, in my opinion, it was a complete failure. We're revamping the entire education system because it didn't work. So we can't go down that same road again with Kerwin. And I think, we may be rushing into this. I think Thornton gutted what is the CTE program, which is something we're fighting to get back today. And I think it's important, and as part of Kerwin, that's a major piece of it, because, like I said, if we look back 20 years, we've taken an education system that was once top-rated in the country, and now we're middle of the road at best. So a lot of things were done wrong, and I think this time we may have to put the brakes on and make sure we do it right. So it lasts the next 20 years, and we're not looking back saying, oh my God, another failure. So.
Question for Jack. Since Chop Tank seems to be encouragingly getting into this, is there any point in approaching Delmarva?
You know, it's co-ops. They didn't reach out. I think the legislation allowed for the larger utility companies to do it. I think there was no prejudice as to who could do it. But I think the target is the co-ops, because they realize the co-ops are typically the ones serving the rural, unserved areas. So I think they're trying to push that initial bucket of money to them.
Okay.
And I would say every time if it's successful, I think what you'll see is a rollout across the board. And probably see some of the right-of-ways get freed up for even further competition from startups or whoever else might want to, provide services. So, yeah. But no, great news with Chop Tank. It really is.
No, very happy. Yeah.
All right, well, I'll try and be quick, but I don't think it's going to happen. So, I was at Mako also, and thank God this year I had a room. So I'm going to give kudos to Margie. And I will say that Jack and Chris kept me out extremely late one night when I found out to buy a flight of Pappy Van Winkle's $200 times 2. So we had a good time. But you're right. I think a lot got accomplished there. We met with the state, started off with meeting with the state, from Secretary Ron to Jim Ports and everybody else in the room to talk about our issues and traffic and what Queen Anne's County is hoping they can get out of this situation. So we'll see come the CTP tour on October 3rd. QAC goes purple. This is our second year. I will be there. I'm one of the speakers, and I'll be short. It's a lot of effort that went in from a lot of people. When I first got on the Drug Free Coalition, it was about almost 4 years ago, three and a half years ago, and the room was about half full. Now you can't get a seat in there, and we're at the sheriff's office in a bigger room, and it's just the amount of organizations and the amount of people that are jumping in and doing everything they humanly can, and that goes for the Haunted Trap House, which is coming this October. And that's going to be huge for Queen Anne's County, and it's going to be huge for our citizens. And everybody is pushing and paddling towards the same goal of educating and trying to help those in the throes of addiction. Now we're going to move to traffic. Anybody that watched?
Real quick, Jim, I noticed our signs. Our overdose, they're up to date, right? So our overdoses to death ratio is actually down this year? Is that right?
It is, but that's a concern for us because of the fact of the Narcan. Because anybody can go in now and buy Narcan. So if you're an addict, you can buy Narcan and have your buddy there, and you can get high. And if you fall off the edge, they have the Narcan to administer to you. So we're trying to work around that with statistics and find out how much Narcan is being sold, because we're thinking the number may be deflated from the Narcan usage. And we're hoping that isn't the case, but that's again, this is a long-term process. But getting back to the traffic. As we heard tonight, we're not getting any answers, and I understand why. I mean, I don't think that, and I appreciate MDTA coming out here. Jim Ports coming out here is the first time I've seen anybody in over 5 years of sitting up here come out and speak to us. So I think that's a first step. But just because he's here doesn't mean he gets a pass on it. I want to thank them because they are repairing these bridges that are really, dilapidated, for lack of better terms, and they're putting the effort and the time in, but the problem is they're not fixing the congestion issue, they're just repairing the bridge. And the congestion issue is out there. The notification that was released today with the 4 locations, one is a no build, and that's a no-brainer, we're going to get rid of that. One is Kent County, then Queen Anne's County, where it is now, and then Talbot County. I think that Jim Ports alluded to the fact that, the one that relieves the most congestion is corridor number 7, which is the existing location, and this existing location already has all of the right-of-way. So, to me, we should be able to move this thing forward at an accelerated rate. I think that now I've got a little more focus on where I want to go with this, and I think it was with the federal government. I think that we need to, as a county, we need to find somebody that knows the NEPA inside and out. Someone that can tell us, yes, you got to do that, no, you don't have to do that, no, that's a discretion, in order to move this project forward. If we can't get an answer of how long it's going to take for the second portion of this after 2021, when they name this is the location, then I think that we're looking through, how do you say that? That's fertilizer. There you go. That's fertilizer. So I think that we ought to be able to find out how long it takes. Because I'm telling you, if you listen tonight, when they said upcoming projects, the redecking of the eastbound bridge was 5 to 10 years. In 5 to 10 years, they're going to start that. So we're 2 years away from completing this lane. So that puts us at 3, possibly. I mean, I got a feeling that once this lane's done, within a year, they'll start redecking the eastbound bridge. And that's probably going to be a 4-year project or a 5-year project. And we need to start worrying about our property values and our businesses. I mean, I tell you, this is not going to be pretty, and I think it's, we've already got property values going down. So I'm not going to harp on the doom and gloom anymore, but we need to get better answers, and we need to get, timelines. I mean, I don't understand any project. They put the contractor feet to the fire with the timeline. Why can't we put them to a timeline? And that's one of the things that we need to work on with our delegation and with our governor and with, our federal representatives. And that's all I got to say about that for now.
So 3 things. 1.
3 things.
Yeah. Trump, one of his main things was he would hop you through certain projects.
Yep.
This is right on top of
Absolutely.
Washington, and we could call it the Trump Bridge.
Yep. I agree.
The Trump Bridge.
That's 1 thing. You said 3 things.
I've forgotten the other 2.
Okay. There you go. It is late. So
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. Second. You have a second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much.